know with mighty, we're going to say we're small and mighty this morning. That's how we're going to put it. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
First of all, I just want to say to all my sisters who are in the audience today, I feel like we're all sisters today, and I say we're sisters because we're here for one common goal, and that's to enhance not only our lives as single mothers, but to also enhance the lives of our future kings. So I thank you all for taking the time out to come today, and I feel like we're going to be family from today starting on, because this is going to be a huge lesson learned. And I'm hoping that after today that you all will go out and spread the word about what took place here today. Now, I want you all to repeat after me, because I want all my ladies to relax, be open-minded to everything that you're about to hear. And I want you to say on the count of 3, I am ready to listen and learn. And I want you to say it just like that. I'm ready to listen and learn. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. I'm ready to listen and learn. Now, we're going to go ahead and start our program, and we're going to have our mayor, Mayor James Perkins, to come up and to greet us at this time.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I want to just acknowledge that this is a great idea to have this conversation. And I want to acknowledge also that I think it is a great collaboration between the county and the school, and the city school systems, that we have this conversation together. And I want to share something with you. When I walked in, and I know this is on many of your minds because I see practitioners here, and you don't see the parents here. But it was one of those things that what's happened here is pretty much what I expected, because it's hard for the people who have the problems to face them. And so I want to encourage you and just suggest that this is a great time for practitioners to do some serious brainstorming, to look at some different best practices and things that we can do to reach the people that we serve. Because truly we do have challenges in trying to help people in many instances who don't even know they need help, and trying to promote ideas and suggestions where people really don't understand the methods and the mindset that we are advocating. And so I just want to say thank you for those who are here. I had planned on coming and leaving immediately, but when I looked at all the power on the stage, I looked at the agenda closely, I think I'm going to stick around a while, because I think I'm going to hear some things and I'll learn some things. So thank you, ladies, for sharing this with me and giving me an opportunity to be with you this morning. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Just want to say thank you all so much for taking time out of your busy schedules to be with us on this morning. We know, of course, that this is a beautiful, beautiful Saturday morning, and we know, of course, and realize that you all could have chosen many other places to be at this time. But we certainly do thank you all so much for taking time out of your busy schedules to be with us on this morning. Of course, we are honored and thankful to have our wonderful mayor, of course, that's here with us on this morning. We thank him so much for bringing greetings on this morning. Of course, we are so thankful, of course, to this awesome panel of speakers that we have on this morning. Again, some powerful, powerful men and women that are here on today to share with us some insights, of course, that we have in dealing with the experiences that we're dealing with on today. So again, I just want to thank everyone, of course, and to our awesome, awesome staff on this morning that has worked, for weeks and weeks and weeks in doing whatever they can do, of course, whether to push this wonderful program, of course, to address the needs of our students. And I can't thank our staff enough, again, for working so hard. And of course, we want to thank our very own Miss Cynthia Millage, who has led this mission, who has led this vision. And of course, she has done so much. Yeah, if you can just join me and let's give her a round of applause, please. Awesome staff that has spent the last 2 weeks walking Walmart, walking the streets, knocking on doors in the neighborhoods, again trying to encourage all of our parents to come out and actually share with us on this morning. Again, we're just so thankful to all of you. And of course, again, we're thankful for the awesome partnership that we have, of course, with Dallas County School System. And I have my brother, I have my friend right here with us. Of course, I want to introduce the superintendent of the Dallas County School System that is right here with us on today. And I'm going to turn it over to my brother at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Bird, and good morning to everyone. I will make my comments very brief and I'll give it context. I know a lady who's 16 years older than I am, whose name is Christine Green, and that's my mother. I get this. I live it. So I'm not disconnected or unrealistic about what we are attempting to do and the support that we're trying to provide for our community. And I'll leave it at that. So let's dig in. Ms. Villa said, listen and learn. I'm here to live it, learn it, and listen.
That we may look, or we may appear to be small in numbers on this morning, but somehow they actually phrased it to me. It's not that we're small in numbers, we just have a very large auditorium. And so it's just the appearance. But parents, again, I want to thank you all so much again for taking time out of your schedules to be with us on today. To our moms, I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for the supernatural strength that you actually display each and every day. Again, the supernatural strength. I was raised by a single mom. She raised us in Pritchard, Alabama. Of course, my mom, she worked 2 jobs, and she had 2 boys at the time. She worked 2 jobs. I know that as a good child that I would, each and every day, I would be asking to see my father, my biological father, and come to realize that he was only 5 minutes down the street. 5 minutes down the street, and so we would sneak out because my mom, of course, she was always working, and so my grandmother and aunts and everything, they actually tried to help. But we would run down the street, and my father had a body shop, and so we would run down the street to try to see him, and we would sneak into the body shop, we would hide, we would try to surprise him, different things such as that. Again, just trying to get him to spend 5 minutes with us. Trying to get him to spend 5 minutes with us. And we never could get that 5 minutes, despite trying many, many, many times. And my mom, of course, again, being the person that she was, of course, she could actually see the anguish with it that we were actually going through, and the disappointment day after day, weekend after weekend, just to get attention. And of course, with being a struggling parent, again, a single mom, again, so much was going on in Pritchard, Alabama at that time. And so she did what she had to do. She actually took us up and she moved us to the country in a place called Washington County. And she took us to McIntosh, Alabama, deep in the country. And she met a country man. And of course, and at that time, of course, mamas, they did what they had to do. They needed some help. They went and found a man, and of course, of that union, they actually birthed another child, so her 3rd boy. And I remember, of course, and things were not perfect at all, and there was such a big difference between my brother and I and the child that they actually birthed together. It was hard. It was hard. It wasn't fair. And I remember the things that my mom had to go through, so much abuse and different things such as that. But she did what she had to do to make sure that her children, that they had somewhere to lay their heads. She did what she had to do, and she put up with so much stuff just to make sure that a check was coming in. She did what she had to do to give us some sort of fulfillment in actually having a man around and realizing that the man that contributed to birthing us wasn't nowhere around. She did what she had to do in order to make things happen. And I thank my mom so much. I thank her so much. I thank her for everything that she went through. I thank her for I thank her for being so strong. I thank her for being so resilient. I thank her for trying to bridge together. I remember the arguments over Christmas and why the baby child got this and why we got this and different things such as that. I remember being in college, mom trying to sneak money to me different. She just went through so much, and I'm forever thankful. And I look up to single moms in such a mighty way, because I know you all do what you have to do in order to get things done, even when we don't act right. And I thank you all so much again for just being supernatural. I know that it is a special place in heaven. I know it's a special place in heaven. And I think about those times, and I think about this, and I think about today. I couldn't even imagine trying to start over and raise children in this society. Instant gratification, social media, peer pressures, everything going on. You all are supernatural. I thought my mom had it hard then, but in this generation, we all need help. And I just thank you all so much. I thank you so much. I respect you. I honor you. I just can't give you enough praise. Thank you all. I just want to say a big thank you to my wonderful board member that's actually sitting out here on this morning. Thank you so much to our wonderful Selma Board of Education. Miss Dr. Miles sitting here with us today. We thank Dr. Chestnut for coming in again. We thank all of you again for being here on today. Again, we thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. And also as well, I would like to, of course, acknowledge my wife who's looking at me. I think she's rolling her eyes. And I'm sitting up there and I'm rolling my eyes back at her because I'm sitting up there thinking, I've been in Selma all this time, all of the many programs that I have been to, and I said, are you coming? No, I'm not going. No, I'm not coming. And then she, she's on Facebook all the time, and I didn't even tell her about this event right here. Didn't even tell her about this event. And all of a sudden she said, single moms. Oh, okay. When is that? I didn't give an answer. Because I'm sitting up here, I knew where she was headed. So I get up this morning, my alarm clock going up, and I wake up, she's already ready. Where are you going? But again, I thank her so much for joining me on today, even though she hasn't joined me on any of these other occasions. Again, I thank you all so much. I apologize for taking up so much time. Again, we thank you all so much. We're getting ready to have an awesome day on today. We're getting ready to have a wonderful day of learning. And I'm so thankful to this wonderful panel, again, for taking time out of your busy schedules to be with us on today. And again, thank you all so much for being here. Okay, Ms. Mills.
All right, everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started. And I just want to say to Mrs. Bird, thank you for coming. I know at one time you were a single mom, so Dr. Bird, I'm sure that's why she came, just to support the single mothers out there. One of the reasons why we decided to do this, it was Dr. Bird's brainchild, and I'll tell you all why. To my surprise, and it was shocking to me, 80% of our scholars or our students in this school district are in the home of a single parent. And that's why we felt like this needed to be done. So when we picked the people on this panel, quite a few of the men are from single parent homes. So they're going to be able to even add even more into this. So I'm hoping that, like I said, we're going to listen, learn, and as Superintendent Sampson said, we're going to live it as well. So this morning I have the honor of introducing to you, to my far left, District Attorney of the 4th Judicial District, Mr. Robert Turner Jr. And let me get that title right because you know he's worked very hard. So it's the District Attorney of the 4th Judicial Circuit District, Mr. Robert Turner Jr. If you could please stand, Mr. Turner. Next we have former legislator, former Selma mayor, and now senior pastor of Tabernacle of Praise Church, Mr. Dario Melton. Now I want to introduce this person who drove all the way from Montgomery, someone that I've known almost a lifetime. Really, it is a lifetime because we were in elementary school together. Licensed clinical psychotherapist and executive warden of juvenile detention and probation for Montgomery County Sheriff's Office and the former statewide clinical treatment coordinator for the Alabama Department of Youth Services, Dr. Scott Holmes. Selma High's head football coach and educator, none other than the man I always say is a new day. He cringes every time I say it, Leon Day. Now this next person I'm going to introduce, I have major respect for him because an incident happened at one of our elementary schools and it warmed my heart to see him out there greeting the students and their parents that next morning. I want to present to you all the Sheriff of Dallas County, Mike Grantham. And it's a pleasure to have a woman that's seated in a high position on the police department. I want to introduce to you all Selma City Assistant Police Chief, Natasha Folks. Next we have, I'm gonna call her a customer service expert, an entertainer, and a single mom of 3, Ebony Neely. And last but not least, I want to introduce a man, I can call him a fireball. He's an author and inspirational speaker, Craig Boykin.
I'm not ever coming back.
I love you too. And you know, as we move along, we can't do this without the moderators. And each of these moderators are quite special too. One is a single mom. One was married, went to being a single mom, and now she's married again. God is good. And I want to introduce our moderators to you for the panel discussion this morning. The first one will be the Selma City Schools Chief of Organizational Leadership and Development, Jacqueline Brown Wright. And you can come on up stage. And our next one is the Selma City Schools Child Nutrition Program Director, Tammy Rowe.
Good morning, good morning. Good morning. We are so excited to be here with you guys. And as Dr. Bird said, it's not a small crowd, the room is just big. I can feel the love and the support and all of the joy. And I think the fertile ground in our hearts that are ready to receive the information and insight from this amazing panel. Ms. Rowe, we ready? We're ready. Would you like to say good morning to everybody?
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Ms. Phyllis, for roping me into doing this. I was very skeptical, guys, because I am a single mom, so I was like, I'll just come, maybe, and sit out in the audience and listen. So I'm excited about it. I too have questions for the panel. I am a single mom of a 5-year-old boy that's currently in the Selma City school system as well. So I'm excited to be here and ready to learn as well.
Thank you so much, Ms. Rowe. And like Ms. Rowe, I've experienced being a single mom. I was married, divorced, single mom, and then got remarried. And now I ended up with a 13-year-old and a 15-month-old. So I'll have one as a freshman in college and one as a kindergartner. So my husband and I laugh about that often, but I'm also looking to gain some insight on the aspect of raising males as well. So we'll get started, and Ms. Neely and I have several questions for the panel. We have had a chance to share with them some of the questions and ask them kind of briefly which ones would they like us to, would they like to discuss, and we're going to go ahead and get started first with Ms. Neely.
Okay. Ms. Neely, the question we have for you is, what was your greatest challenge in raising your sons, and how did you overcome it?
How much time do I have? Y'all know me, you know, I'm far from not being long-winded, but I'll start with saying this. My greatest challenge was doing it just by myself, not with the help of my family, because I must say, being a single mom, I've always had a great support system. We typically say it takes a village to raise a child. Well, being a part of the single mom community, we also need a village. Single moms need a village, so I was grateful for that. My greatest, outside of that, another greatest challenge was just making sure that I didn't fail them. I wanted to do everything correctly to ensure that they had the things that I didn't have. I didn't always go about it the right way. I'm 17 years older than my oldest son, so we kind of grew up together. I tell people it's no handbook, it's no rule book to parenting. You keep God first and you do the best that you can with what you have, you know, and it was just that, just wanting to make sure that I didn't fail them, that even in this time, I think I'm a more better version of myself for them than what I used to be, because we were all young. I have 3 boys, 19, 16, and 11. Like I said, the 19-year-old and I, we grew up together, needless to say, kind of, sort of. So it would just be that, just making sure I didn't fail them, just making sure that they had the proper upbringing to be productive in their life. And like, it's no handbook to it. It's no, I didn't read anything. I promise I did not Google how to be a mom, a better mom. It's no instructions. You just keep God first and you learn. If you weren't where you wanted to be 10 years ago, but you are there now, that's called learning. We have to learn from our mistakes to make it better, if that makes sense.
Thank you, Ms. Neely. She said that she didn't Google how to be a mom. I'm pretty sure you can find a Google search online, like how to put him to sleep. Like, how am I supposed to do this? So, you know, different parenting. Like you said, it's no rule book, it's no guidebook. You kind of just take what you can from the resources that you have and you do the best you can. You know, you pray, you move on, and you do what you can do. And you've done a great job. I follow you on social media. So yeah, you did a great job, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, let's give it up. Let's give it up. Ms. Neely, you mentioned an important aspect about having a strong support system. And sometimes when we think about support system, we automatically think that has to be family. And for me, having that support system of my family is extremely important, because as a single mom, I had my mom, and she was right there holding my hand for everything. Well, with my new baby, he came 2 days after I buried my mother. So I'm using everything she taught me about the importance of family and making sure I stay connected to my aunts so that I could be here this morning. I wouldn't be able to be here without that support system. So I just want to take a tidbit of what you said about a support system. It might not be your family always, because you might not have family locally. But I would encourage young single women to please get in with a support system of older women. Because as she said, she was growing up with her babies. You need that older woman's wisdom to help guide you and help temper you when you are losing patience with your babies. And the weight of being a single mom and trying to make it happen for your children is too much. You need that older woman that can say, hold on, give me that baby, and you go and take care of you for a little while. You need that. So thank you for bringing out the part about having a support system and how, as a young single mom, you're still growing up with your baby, and give yourself some grace with that. Thank you. All right, let's go on to Mr. Boykin. Your first question, Mr. Boykin. What message do you have for single mothers striving to provide the best for their sons amidst personal and societal challenges?
Cardinal rule number 1. You don't ever give a professional speaker a mic without a time limit.
2 minutes, Mr. Boykin. 2 to 3.
Hey, good morning, Vanetta. How you doing? Good to see you. This Judge is in the building. All right, first, let's get our hands together. I didn't hear 2 minutes, but thank you for that. But let's go back. Let me go back for a minute, and we have to understand the history before I can answer the question. In 1964, who was the president? Lyndon Johnson. Lyndon Johnson decided in 1964 that he was going to declare war on poverty. Now, in the 1950s, there were more married black families than there were any other race in America. When they declared war on poverty, they incorporated things like free public housing. They declared things like food stamps and Title I and Section 8. And they told all these women, not just black women, all women, but they especially black women, that you can come and you can live in this public housing for free. We'll pay your water, we're gonna give you some food stamps, we're gonna give you a place to live. All you gotta do is 2 things. Number 1, you can't have no man up here. We became your man. Number 2, we gotta give us a copy of your paycheck stub so we can keep you in a certain tax bracket, so we can control you. And in that decade, black families went from being the most populated group of people to now 80% of the kids that are born out of wedlock. So they single-handedly, strategically snatched the black man out of the home. And when you take the head, I don't care how you look at it, the man is the head. I didn't say that, that's what the word of God said. And when you snatch the head out, that's when you can no longer function. Chaos begins. So then watch this, we moved into the 70s. In the 70s, we had the Black Panthers and all these movements that were going on. That got hijacked by the women's movement because the black women left the black movement and went over with the women's movement, and so then that got hijacked. Then we come into the 80s, and now you got the epidemic of drugs. That was an influx into the communities, especially the poor and black communities. Go on up to the 90s, super predators, all the mass incarceration, and now we're into the 2000s and the 2020s. Now, watch this, the advice that I would give you. When you come into this world as a human being, every one of us in this room came into this world wanting to be loved by our mother and our father. When you come into this world and you only have one half of that, you come in not whole. You come in with holes in you. And so what happens is you go throughout life looking for validation. It's called rejection. And when you don't feel loved, you feel rejected, you look for validation, you're going to find that validation from somewhere. Emotionally traumatized people need the most validation of anybody on this earth. Now, as a man, I had a mom who was on crack, but she wasn't in my life. I didn't have a father. My validation was with women. And so every time I laid with a woman or I was with a woman, I was looking for that validation. Now watch this, and I'm going to give the mic up, and I'll come back later. But all my life I've dated older women. My wife now is 5 years older than me. My first girlfriend was 21, I was 16. And I remember in college, I was writing a piece of paper. I was writing a paper. And in the paper, I was talking about my life and how I always dated older women and my attraction to older women. And my professor said, do you know why you're attracted to older women? And I was like, no. He was like, you're attracted to older women because you're looking for a mother figure. Because you never felt like you was loved. Now, single moms, I'm not saying that you cannot raise a great human being. You can. You can raise that man to be successful. You can raise that man to be an intelligent human being, but what you cannot do is teach him how to be a man. He got to be around a man to see a man to be a man. I was in the barbershop yesterday getting that fresh cut that you see right now. I was in the barbershop and I was shocked as I was talking to my barber about what I was going to do today, and I saw nothing but women in there bringing their sons to get a haircut. That's an indictment. That's a shame, because for years and for centuries and decades, that has been a place where men took their kids, their boys, to see other men, and we had grown men conversations, we had kid conversations. We talked about things that black men talk about. But now you got women in there, that's an indictment. Now, I'm going to shut up, but I'm going to say this, Dr. Bird. I have a lot of principals, a lot of superintendents, a lot of people that follow me on my social media page. And when she shared this, I had 10 principals hit me in my inbox and say, I want to bring that to my school system. So just because this place is empty doesn't mean this is not the launching pad for something that might go all over America.
So much, just so much so that if anyone knows my kid, he's a mama's boy, unfortunately. He's 5, so we got some room to make that work. But when Dixie is right next door to our barbershop, we go to barbershop in Crowder. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna start just going to the store. I'm gonna leave him in the barbershop with the guys. I'm just gonna go to the store and go grocery shopping and just let him, number one, be away from me for some degree of time. But also maybe just get that male figure role model. He also has 5 uncles, so he's probably gonna be okay. But at the same time, to have that other influence outside of the household, that support system outside of his family. I'm not gonna cry today, y'all. But to have that outside of his house, outside of what he already knows, may be like great to do. So that's one thing I may take from this, just, leave him at the barbershop. He's safe, we've been there for a while, ain't gonna have to. And, go do some other things. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much. Outstanding perspective and history lesson from Mr. Boykin. And I'm just gonna put this shameless plug in. We need you back for our institute. So Dr. Berg, find us some money, please. Ms. Harris, we need some money to get Mr. Boykin back. And again, that historical context that we just don't think about. We know it happened. But we might not be thinking about it in the context of the makeup of our families today and what we see our boys doing in the streets. They're emulating the guy on the street corner, not the man that's in the house with them. Right. And that is a huge problem when you see a 1-year-old walking with his pants sagging and using the language that are in the songs, not in the ABCs. That is because of the environment he's around. Our children are like sponges when they're little bitty, so we have to make sure we're putting them in front of the right man. Can't just be any man. I was raised by a single mom. My dad died in a car accident, of cancer when I was 2. I was 2, my sister was 5. So that validation and the whole looking and that whole piece that goes both ways for girls who grow up in houses without their dads. My husband is 7 or so years older than me, so that whole piece is coming full circle just from a female perspective. So again, keeping in mind who we have these boys around and who's before them. Do you want them to emulate the man on the street corner, or do you want them to emulate the uncle or the guy in the barbershop who is gainfully employed and providing for his family? Thank you, Mr. Boykin. Yeah. Mr. Melton, the next question is for you. How did religion and our community in Selma play a role in keeping you on the right path? And you've been on the right path for a long time, Mr. Melton, because we went to high school together and you were a good kid back then too. You were.
Go say.
How can single mothers leverage the elements of religion and community with their sons?
Well, thank you for that question. My buddy here, I think you did a great synopsis is what we're facing and dealing with. I begin by answering that question by saying the greatest wound that any young man can have is the wound from a father. And many single parents are trying to heal that wound. Many women are trying to heal the wound from what has come from the father. What I've experienced, and I speak to the religious perspective, what I experienced, what my mom did for me, what she did for me, 3 things. She taught me that I was accepted without doing anything. It wasn't about the grades I made. It wasn't about my achievements.
It was that I belonged to her. And many of our children don't feel like they belong anywhere. It wasn't the church that did that. She said, "You're mine." She was 16 years old, and she was dragged through the streets, pregnant outside of wedlock, pregnant by a married man. I was the illegitimate, am the illegitimate child. She accepted me. She affirmed me, always told me what I can do, never told me what I could not do. She always approved of me, even when I didn't do anything. So what does that have to do with the religious context? When I see that, I think about biblical characters. We witness Jesus' life, and we don't see his father anymore once he gets 12 years old. It's always Mary who's showing up. He's at John chapter 2, he's at a wedding at Cana. And his mom comes to him and says, "Son, I need you to do something about this situation." He said, "Mom, it ain't my time." She said, "But you can do it." And he speaks to the water and it becomes wine. Even at the cross, the father wasn't there. You see what the cross is. Many of our young men are in jumpsuits. But it's the mamas who keep showing up in the prison. It's the mamas who keep putting stuff on the book. Because mamas are always there. Why am I saying that to you? Mamas, we got to get our children to the Lord. We got to get our children before the church. That's what helped me. I kept going to church. My mom made sure I kept going to church. She was a single parent, but I had to go to church. I had my little Easter outfits on and I was going to church. But here's the reality of it. Once I got to church, there were men in the church who affirmed me, who accepted me, who approved of me. I'm at the church I'm at now for 30 years because there was a man who modeled for me what manhood looked like. Mama couldn't do it, but she led me to a place where there were men who would show me the way. So as single parents, I encourage single mothers not just to send them to church, but to take them to church and allow men that opportunity to speak to their lives. Every man that in church is not trying to talk to you. I got to say that loud. Every man in the church don't want your number. We just want to help. I'm a part of a program now at the church called the HEAT program. We're dealing with over 20 young men who've gone through, well, thank you, Judge, for what you allowed them to do. Through the judge who's partnering with us to speak to young men who have been wounded, many of them by their fathers. And because I know what their wound is like, I can identify with them. I'm not trying to talk to their mothers. I want to help their sons. And so there's men in the church who want to help sons, but we got to get them to the church. Not when they're in the jumpsuit, but before they get in the jumpsuit. I hope I didn't take too much time.
He said, before they are in the jumpsuit, we need to have them in the church suit. And not just sending them, the mamas need to go and be there with them because you're setting the example. I say all the time in our district, what's important to the leader becomes important to the masses. What's important to the leader in the home, and in 80% of ours, apparently, the leader in the home is the mom. What's important to her is going to become important to her children. So if that is survival, then the kids emulate that. If that is church, then the kids are more likely to emulate that. So absolutely, absolutely, we want to get them in the church before they are ordered to go there and be a part of the program by the judge. We want to clear her courtroom out. We want to shut her. We want to shut her courtroom down. We want to. No disrespect to
No. I'm leading the way.
So get them into a suit in the church before we have to get them into the jumpsuit. Absolutely.
Yes, so next question we have is for District Attorney Robert Turner. And we're going to pivot a little bit into school systems in schools. So you're currently working with chronic absenteeism with Selma schools. So please explain to our moms why it's so important for their children to come to school and what could be the repercussions they would face in court if scholars aren't in class daily.
I think the main thing that we need to understand with this is we have to learn to instill responsibility and accountability in our children. And that begins with allowing them to understand how important it is to prioritize. Educators can't educate without your children being there. And one of the things that happens is school is one of the first opportunities you have to establish with a kid how important it is to be on time and to be present and to be ready. And what happens oftentimes when, even in two-parent households, you know, I'm fortunate enough to have a wife and we've got 2 children, and it gets busy even with 2 parents in the house. So I can understand that there is some difficulty sometimes when you're trying to work, you're trying to make sure that, you know, there's food and there's money in the bank. You know, sometimes it gets difficult to get kids to school all the time, especially when you don't have the proper support base. But we have to start by letting kids know that you can't learn if you are not there. And when absenteeism starts to set in, especially unexcused absences, you have teachers who have certain requirements that they have to meet where they can't allow you unless you've got those really good teachers who always go the extra mile, and we've got a number of those. But they're not required to give you makeup work for unexcused absences. You know, we've been able to study through our Helping Families program that there are some children that end up getting zeros on their progress reports and on their report cards because they happen to miss school on a quiz day or an exam day. And we have to be cognizant of that. If you're not talking to your kids and you're not asking them, when does this teacher give you quizzes? When do you all normally have your tests? You know, when do you have, you know, your other activities throughout school? If you don't know what's going on with the kids, you can establish a pattern where you're just letting them miss school because it's more convenient for your schedule without understanding their needs. So what happens is the statistics, I'm getting tongue-tied, I guess it's too early and I didn't have breakfast yet, but performance is related to attendance. Typically the kids that miss the most days out of school are the ones that end up performing the worst in class. And what happens is that a pattern starts to form. I have this thing that I talk about when I'm in small groups, when people start talking about behavioral issues with children, and particularly males. You'd be surprised at how many males, as a result of missing school and falling behind, not learning how to read on grade level, falling behind in your math studies, you'd be surprised how many young males intentionally act out so that they can get kicked out of class so that they don't have to stand up and go to the board. You'd be surprised at how many of them act out intentionally because the teacher might say, Robert, can you read this paragraph? Robert knows that that's going to mess up his swag. Because when he talks to the young ladies in the hallway or when he's on the football field or whatever, he's swagged out. But if you ask him to read and he cannot pronounce Renaissance, and some little skinny kid with glasses is going to laugh at him and the girls are going to laugh at him, he'll stand up and say, you read. All of that goes back to impressing upon them how important it is to be accountable and to be present. And we have to address this absenteeism because it's becoming chronic. And so oftentimes when people are brought in and we start talking to the parents, y'all just don't understand. I got this much to do. I'm tired of trying to make him wake up. He won't set his alarm clock. And I had to go. I was going to lose my job. So I just left his butt in the bed. We cannot do that. We have to understand that we are the tone setters in our households. And if we don't establish and understand how important that accountability is, it's going to follow them throughout their lives. It's going to be easy for them to walk off of jobs. It's going to be easy for them to quit sports teams and quit sports programs because their presence and being there on time is not important to them. So I think that that's something that we really need to pay close attention to and emphasize in all of our homes.
Thank you so much for that answer. So I have a testament to that. So again, I preface all my statements when I have a 5-year-old, guys, okay? I still control most things in his life. So, but at the age of 3, me being a single mom, structure and routines were important for me because I needed him to get to bed at a certain time so I can decompress from the day, all of those things. So we set up a morning routine and a nighttime routine. And his morning routine, at the age of 5, he knows it. He knows it from the back of his hand. On Elf on the Shelf, one of the things that Elf did was rearrange his schedule. First thing he noticed, Mom, my Elf put my toothbrush behind my food, and that's not where it's supposed to be. So I say all that to say that, like, he's accountable. Like, at 5 years old, like, he knows when he gets up in the morning, he has 5 steps to do. He knows Monday through Friday that he's going to school. This morning when we woke up, and I said, we gotta go to Selma, he was like, what? You know, he was confused as to this is not the routine. And I have started with him at the age of 3, we started these. It benefited me tremendously. But also now he has accountability, he has responsibility, he has a pattern that he knows Monday through Friday, I have to do these things, I go to school. And on Saturday and Sunday, he counts down Saturday and Sunday, but he knows on those S days, which he calls them, that he doesn't go to school on those days. So those patterns, that repetition, the kids see it, they emulate it, and starting it early on, I hope it follows through, you know, into preteens and teenage years for my son, but like having those patterns and the responsibility, instilling that in your kid early on would probably make a big difference when they get older. Like Nicholas knows, Monday through Friday, this is what we do, we go to school, period. Like there's no other thing that he knows in his life right now. And he's been in preschool since he was 3 years old. So he knows that's his thing. So thank you for that. School's important, you gotta learn.
And the routines, parents, don't be afraid to start those before they get into pre-K and preschool and formal schooling. I mentioned that my son is 15 months, but in his room when he is playing, it's the book, Brown Bear, Brown Bear. If I say Brown Bear, that I've been reading since he was in my womb to him, if I say that now, he knows exactly which book to go get out of hundreds of books. He can play with anything, but it's the books because that's our routine. Nighttime, we sit down, we go into his room, he can pull whatever books, but even at 15 months, he knows what's important to mommy. It's reading, and it's books, and it's learning already. When we set those structures and we set them early, as Ms. Rowe is doing with her baby, and I'm doing it as Mr. Turner is doing in his home with his babies, that gives our children a chance to be successful. And when they are used to having structure and order, it's not foreign to them when they come in a classroom and a teacher demands, or the school demands. You won't come down our hallways cursing. You're gonna have to sit and do what we're asking you to do. It's foreign to our babies that are coming to us now because of the structure and the organization that's missing at home, and it is making our jobs. It's making our teachers' jobs, our principals' jobs, our jobs, the people in this room that are here, it's making our jobs exponentially more difficult when we've got to fight them to get in order just so we can give them what we're paid to give them. And even before we can get them in order, we have to fight with the parents to make them come on and get it on time. Chronic absenteeism, I gotta make this plug because I feel like I'm gonna have a conversation with Dr. Bird if I don't about chronic absenteeism and the way it impacts our school district. We are not just graded on what's happening academically. One of the biggest pieces is whether or not your children are coming to school. Chronic absenteeism is 18 or more unexcused absences. 18, that means your child has missed so much school they couldn't possibly have learned everything we needed to give them in that quarter or that semester. 18 absences is chronic absenteeism. And it does not matter if it is excused or unexcused. And if we don't get chronic absenteeism right, we automatically lose a whole letter grade on the A3F report card. And the misconception is, I got to say this, District Attorney Turner, The misconception is that we went down because of academics. Even through a tornado, a storm, and all the things going on in our community, and even a pandemic, our academics held steady. The greatest drop that we had in Selma City that caused us to drop a letter grade was actually chronic absenteeism. So we can't teach them, like he said, until the parents get them here. Then when they get them here, they had to be taught structure at home and organization at home, so we're not fighting them by the time they get in the classroom and just sit down so we can give you what we need to give you, baby. So chronic absenteeism, and we've been studying other districts and other counties and looking at what are they doing to innovate and to get children to school. So we've got the $500 or the voucher coming from the Selma Housing Authority to help us get some of these parents to get their kids to school. But what I've noticed in Jefferson County is when their students are absent a couple of times, the letter doesn't come from the school or the superintendent, it comes from the district attorney's office. So District Attorney Turner, we got to talk. We got to talk. When a parent sees a letter from him and not from him, it means something. So this wasn't a part of the presentation, but I took a shameless plug. Chronic absenteeism, we've got to fix that, and if we do, we can go up a letter grade. And our teachers are doing everything they can to help teach the babies, but we gotta get them here. Sorry, didn't mean to take so long. Somebody tell me about the 2 minutes. I'm normally the person on the clock in all the meetings. The next one is Mr. Davis. Back to you, Ms. Brown.
Okay, so as a coach, what qualities do you believe are essential for young boys to develop, and how can single mothers encourage these traits?
See there, I'm not a professional speaker, guys, forgive me. If I understand, could you repeat the question one more time? I want to make sure I'm at it.
Yes. What qualities do you believe are essential for young boys to develop, and how can single mothers encourage these traits?
Great question. I think qualities, I would say, kind of supersede gender, right? You're talking about discipline and accountability, right? Work ethic. Throw another thing out there, delayed gratification, right? You know, there's several things. It's not a one word, it's not a one sentence answer, right? It's a combination of those things to help you, in my opinion, accomplish your ultimate goal. I'm sorry, your ultimate goal. So I wouldn't just put it on one thing, but if I had to put some specific traits out there immediately, the first thing I think about is having some discipline, having some accountability, having a work ethic, right? But if after answering that question, let me throw this on there. It's crucial that we show them an example of the benefits of doing those things, right? It's crucial that we show them successful examples of someone who has discipline, of someone who's accountable, of someone, right, who has work ethic. Oftentimes, they don't get a chance to see the results of someone who inherits those qualities, because oftentimes, it's not immediate gratification attached to those things, right? It takes 2 or 3 years to get this going. He mentioned something where he said, hey, it may not seem like it's this, but in order to get to going all over the world, you gotta start. And how many people willing to make this start? Like seem embarrassed or, oh man, this shuts a lot of people down from going any further, right? But showing them examples of maybe someone else who's had a forum of this magnitude and started with an auditorium of this size. It reminds all of us, okay, let's keep going, right? We saw an example of, all right, somebody who had this experience. And one more thing I want to throw out there to us, because obviously I work with high school kids. I've been in education for over 20-some years. I've taught everything from kindergarten to 12th grade, right? What I will say is this. Please, 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 get to know what your kids' goals are. We all have a why. That's why I drove from Atlanta. I have my why. Got up from Atlanta this morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, so I can be here, right? If I want my young men to be accountable, I got to set the example first. That's how I want them to be accountable and be on time when you give somebody your word. I have to do that first. So I'm asking you all to please needs as a single mom, sit down with them and figure out what it is they would like to accomplish. And you'll be surprised how now it might be a little bit easier to guide them on that track. When I was growing up, on my wall we had posters, right? Randall Cunningham, Michael Jordan, I'm just telling you from my sports aspect. Because you hear your kids speak on it. Sometimes in kindergarten you ask you what they want to be. Firemen, of this, of that. They're starting to tell you what their goals are. And they may change over time, right? But once I know what your goals are as a 16-year-old, 17-year-old, now I can start connecting how school.
That's good. That's good.
How does algebra help me get to the NFL? None of the people I know, at some point, logic don't kick into us as human beings and us as men, and we gonna start young men saying, hey, this don't make, it ain't making sense now. You know, parents, be careful about the things you complain about. If hard work and doing things the right way is the right way for them to go, be careful complaining about the job. They listen, they say, one thing I don't want to do. You got the degree, Mama. Right? Here's another thing for you. Relationships. Be careful when you vent about your relationship. He make me. She get on mine. I should have never. I don't need. If you want to leave, baby. Right? So, again, connecting the dot, you'd be surprised in the 9th grade when my coach told me that, hey son, if you talk about going to the pros, here's what you're going to have to do. Your GPA is going to have to be this, so this is why that algebra is important. You ain't got to worry now. You're going to need a 2.7 to be eligible. Oh, you got to worry now. So I need to take this ACT. Oh, you connected what I wanted at 15, 16, 17, what I wanted to accomplish. You connected how my daily habits, attendance, is going to help me get there.
Right. That's so good.
Thank you, Coach Dave. And you said that you weren't a professional speaker. Yes, sir. You said that you weren't. Okay. You did great. That was great. That was good. So next we have,
All right, another Selma High School alum, Assistant Police Chief Folks. All right. Assistant Police Chief Folks, we would like to ask, what advice would you offer to moms when it comes to a young man's attitude and behavior when they interact with, this question says law enforcement, but I also want you to add in that when they're interacting with their teachers. Do you need me to repeat the question? Okay.
Before I go into the question, I want to give hats off. I know it's for single moms, but for grandparents, grandmothers. My mom was murdered when I was 13 years old. I knew my dad, but I never seen him, never had a relationship with him. So my grandmother reared. My grandmother reared me and my other 2 siblings. So I want to give hats off to that grandparent that taken the place of that mom or in that, because my grandmother is the reason for me sitting here in my position, because she always instilled in me that no matter what, believe in yourself and that you can do it. So I want to give hats off to grandmother, because she reared me. And I thank God for my grandmother. And for the single moms, when you teaching your kids, not just the boys, but your kids in general, what to do how to do, what not to do when encountering law enforcement. I want to say it's not on that video game that they see in. When the officers approach and they shoot, they run or whatever, it's not that. I want to encourage you to encourage your kids when they encounter law enforcement, as well as any adult. Be respectful, for one. And just because law enforcement is out with you does not mean you done something wrong. So you comply. And we all want our kids to come home. So teach them just by complying does not mean you guilty. Comply. Because if not, it's gonna escalate to something else. So be respectful, comply, and once you do those two things, one or two of the outcomes gonna happen. That officer gonna see that you are a respectful person. They may issue you a warning or a citation depending on the reason they're out with you. Or two, you can end up in jail, or you can end up dead. So my advice is to teach them, whether it's law enforcement or any adult, to be respectful. Treat them like you would treat your mother. And out of 20 years of law enforcement, when I encounter anyone, I treat them the way I want to be treated. So I feel and I believe that if you do that in return, the outcome will be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Foltz, for that response. She mentioned respect. That's mutual. A lot of times we will have to train our teachers, and especially our new teachers, on being trauma sensitive. Can we all agree that this is a traumatized community we're serving? Yes. Our children are hurting. How do we know? Because we can hear what parents are saying to them as they exit their cars to come into our care. We can hear what parents are saying to them. We can hear the parents' disrespectful words to the child as they're checking them out of school, taking them away from our care. We are training our teachers, our new teachers, on being trauma sensitive and trauma informed. So when this boy who has heard his mama fight this man off all night, and he wanted to be the man and the savior in his house, he can't take one more thing that this teacher is coming and telling him to do. Or this child, this girl who has 5 siblings at home and she's in the 8th grade, but she's having to do the daily care for all 5 children, so she is the adult in her home, and she doesn't want to come in a classroom for somebody to tell her what to do, because he had to tell everybody else what to do in her home. So the respect that we have to give to these kids might look a little different, and even if they are children, they still are due our respect. So they can't respect us if they don't first see us modeling that. Not only modeling it towards them, but towards each. If the teachers in the school talking crazy to each other, if the police are talking crazy to each other, they gonna do and respond to what they see grown folk doing. So the respect has to be modeled, the retooling on that trauma-informed instruction and trauma and being trauma-sensitive as educators and principals and leaders. We've got to be about that, because we're no longer serving a normal constituency. And it's not that it's something wrong, but these are dire circumstances that we are in, y'all. So the respect piece When we approach a child and they're wrong in school, we can't yell at them. That can't be the first step, because they're going to yell back at you because it's already bubbling up on the inside of them. So we will do a better job, Assistant Police Chief folks, of doing more with trauma-informed practices to make sure that we're also teaching our children to be respectful, not only with us, but with law enforcement, and hopefully try to impact this community. So thank you for bringing out the piece about respect towards all adults, but it starts with adults respecting them first. Their children they're just little humans, but they have big feelings, and I have to say this piece right here about respect. I had a first grade teacher in this district when I was a first grader in this district. Miss, I won't say her name, but she was a first grade teacher. I was at Edgewood, and I was a non-reader in kindergarten and first grade, and I did not actually learn to read until I was in the second grade. And it was because I was so afraid of this disrespectful teacher that I had. She would grab our chins and shake our faces if we didn't understand right off. I was not allowed to eat my lunch until I finished my reading workbook, but it looked like Chinese to me, so I was not eating my lunch at school. My saving grace was a long-time sub named Miss Forrester. Back then in first grade, I didn't know what it meant to be pregnant, because we weren't in adult conversations, and we didn't have social media, so the teacher left on maternity leave, and I ended up getting Miss Foster as my first grade teacher. Miss Foster was a sub and couldn't teach me the strategies to read, but she had love and respect towards me. Miss Foster restored my soul. And by the time I got to second grade, I wasn't so afraid of my teacher that Miss Edwards, my second grade teacher, could sit me at her table with the love and the respect she had for me. That's how I got over my fear of learning to read. And had Miss Edwards and Miss Foster never made that interjection in my life, but God, the respect of two teachers, restoring the soul and the heart of a broken first grader. That's me. So respect starts from the adult. The child can't respect the adult if we're not being respectful towards them. One last story, I was an assistant principal, and this child kept coming into my office from this one teacher. Child was being written up every day for cursing a teacher. But every time they were in my office, it was, Miss Wright, this is such and such, and this is what I did, and very honest and very respectful. And I finally stopped, because I didn't think that the child should keep coming to my office. What's going on? Why can you come in here and say, yes ma'am, no ma'am? But in there, you're giving the teacher word for word, and she said, well, you're not yelling at me, Miss Wright. You speak to me with respect, so I speak to you in that way. She's in there yelling and cursing at us. Kids giving us what we give to them. Sorry for taking your extra minutes, but I had to share that.
All right, next we have a question for Dr. Holmes. The question we're going to ask you is, are there any red flags or warning signs a mom should be aware of that may indicate the need for professional support or counseling?
Well, since we're on the topic of...
Can you hear me? Okay. Since we're on the topic of trauma, I think that's something that's the first thing that we need to realize. And I'm going to say this.
Yes.
Come on. You push me. I like what you said. You said that I was sitting here and that resonated in my soul. It just took root when you said that someone helped restore your soul. And I think in this traumatized community and in our traumatized culture, and I'm talking about us, those of us that look like each other, that we're so traumatized until what we do is we make other people pay for what others have done to us. And so what we do is we look at someone and we recognize something in them that's really wrong with us. And what we do is that we lash out at them. And so when a child comes to us, it's the same thing. We're unhealed. So what do? we lash out at the child. We're unhealed from the relationship of the father, of the bad relationship that we went in, that we knew what he was about before. But now we have a child, and now what we want to do is, now what I want to do is say, you just like yo. You understand? And so we're making them pay for maybe a choice that we made. And I'm going to say this, and I'm going to answer that question. My mom was, and I'm just going to say she was an original Selma Montgomery marcher, so she was a soldier, in every sense of the word. So there was no excuse in my house, in our house. I had to get my lesson. I had to do what she said do, because that's just how it was. My parents were divorced, but there's something that somebody said, and my mom was a teacher, and she said, every time they would introduce her, they would say, oh, she's a divorced mom, or she's a single mom, or that's so-and-so's ex-wife. And I remember a pastor said that, and she checked him on the spot. And she told him, she said, first of all, I ain't nobody's ex. And she said, and I ain't nobody's whatever else you want to say. I am a mother. So she took that, and she was an English teacher, so she took the adjective off the noun. I'm a mother. And so as a mother, it is my responsibility, no matter if he's not here or not, to raise my child. But the blessing in all of that is that my parents came together, and even though my father had issues, both of them were educated, but they were educated enough to come together and develop what I call now, even when I do family sessions, it's called partners in parenting. In other words, we know we got issues, but we're not going to push that on our child. And what we're going to do is we're going to come together as adults, because my mom made it very clear to my dad that you just weren't going to be a child support paying dad. You're going to pick him up for his games, you're going to go to his band rehearsals, you're going to participate, you coming to PTA with me. I don't care who you date. And she ain't coming. It's going to be us. But you have to make a conscious decision to do that. And what happens is that that's how you reduce the triggers and reduce the trauma that your child experiences, because of the fact that what you have done is you got to reduce the chaos first in order to produce that peace in your house. Okay? I'm definitely not trying to preach, but I am a preacher, so I'm gonna go there either way or not. So here's the deal. But for those children who are experiencing trauma, it is important that you see the need for mental health. We in the African American community, I don't know what it is about us, we do not. If you mention the word mental health, because, and I understand, because we've just been told that we use the word crazy. We're not. Everybody has a level of dysfunction. I went into counseling because of my own dysfunctions. I went in because of my own family dysfunctions. I went in because I wanted to allow the pain in my life to produce purpose, and that's what it's doing now. So when you recognize those triggers of your child, and your child is sad, or your child is having these emotional problems, okay? Stop saying that it's ADD or ADHD, because half the time it's not. Sometimes your child needs to be challenged a little bit more. And sometimes you need to put them in other programs in order to get them challenged, okay? Because a pill is not going to solve everything, okay? It has to be some discipline that we put in place. And even as a clinician, when they come to me, I promise you, they want to talk medication, I'm not talking medication. I want to talk discipline and behavior management first, because we need to differentiate whether this is a mental illness or these are just some behavior issues from some permissive parenting that you may have done. I'm not going to beat you down as a parent and say that you were a bad parent, but maybe you missed it, because I think as parents, we all miss it sometimes. But when we missed it, we need to pick it back up and we need to do something about it. So if your child is in need of therapy, make sure that you have resources. Go to your school guidance counselor. Every school guidance program needs to have some mental health resources. and make sure that it's confidential, okay? And make sure that they're able to go to a therapist and talk about it, okay? And let me tell you something about therapy. Therapy is not telling you what to do. It's guiding you to the answer that you already know. Okay? But if you don't know it, then we're going to help you get there. But please make sure that that's one thing that you can do. That's something that we call now, it's called trauma-focused CBT. Trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy means that there are a lot of, and we do this in Montgomery, we do this with the Montgomery Police Department. A lot of children have been traumatized by violence. So what we do is to bridge the gap between law enforcement and also to bring healing to the family. What we do is that we assign them an individual counselor where we go out on the scene. Not only do we go out on the scene, but we also bring them into the office and we have lunch or we have talk. And what we do is we just provide therapy for them in order to help them do that. Because what we want to do is that at a certain time of life, they have been wounded. So what we want to do is bring that healing into play and start the healing process in order to assist them in becoming better adults.
Thank you for that response, Dr. Scott. I'm a strong advocate of mental health. Being a single parent, I was raised by a single parent, so that I can say that it's just a lot happens in your life that you think that you don't know why it happens, right? So it's important to talk about these things in our community. I don't talk about this to my child. However, as a single parent, as a mother, I want to do the best I can do for my child. So even at this stage, I'm like, okay, what's the next step in his life? And I'm looking to go to a child's therapist, like what should I expect? What are the steps I need to take in order to, continue to steer him on the right path, right? So those resources are out there, right? It's reach out to your guidance counselor, like you said, reach out. Google is our friend, guys. So just Google child therapist near me type of thing. Call them, interview them. They are in service to you. Maybe talk to a few of them before you even make the decision to talk to one. So just do your due diligence and making the best decisions for our kids, because we don't have all the answers. It's not God to do this, but there are professionals in this world that are out there that can help us make it a little bit easier.
Can I give you one more resource? Mental health first aid. Everybody needs to write that down. Mental health first aid. That is a 4 to 6 hour course that I know we offer. We offer with the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office. I travel and I go to different places teaching it. And it's even to school districts because we got different types of mental health first aid. It doesn't teach you how to be a therapist, but it teaches you how to, first of all, create a community of care among the teachers so you can come to each other if you've got issues. And then the other thing is that helping juveniles understand their issues and knowing how to talk about it. And also even teaching juveniles how to be peer support. In other words, how to be a friend to your friend that's having some issues. They may have lost a parent, something may have happened in the school, and it just creates a community of care. So mental health first aid is another resource.
Thank you. Mental health first aid, guys. Thanks so much.
I'm looking for Dr. Rudolph, but I only see her mother. So Mom, pass the message on to Dr. Rudolph. Mental health first aid. We need to research that on Monday when we get back to work. We got it. Okay, well, Judge Perkins said we're going to get it through the community. All right.
She was here, but she had a presentation at the same time.
Okay, yes. Thank you so much, Ms. Smiley. Thank you. All right, we have one more. Oh, I want to share this. Yes.
We already have it in our school system.
Oh, awesome. So we have it. She's already doing it. Very good. I wanted to share from a perspective with my baby, my oldest son. As we went through divorce, we did enlist therapy for him at 3 because it was a week to week and 2 different daycares. There was so much change going on for my baby, and though he was potty trained, he started to regress. He wasn't a temper tantrum type of child before this change that myself and his father had to go through. And so I saw my baby not looking like my baby. And so we did enlist therapy, and through that, I was able to get help to help my child. My baby was able to get help, and I was able to get some resources and some evidence-based strategies that would help get him back on the right track. And I am so proud now that he is 13, he is well adjusted, he makes great grades, he's in track and band, and he's flourishing now. But I sometimes think back to what if we wouldn't have tried to get the help for him at 3 when we initially saw. So make sure that if you are not that person to go and get that help, get an older person in your life that is watching you and your child and can say, pull your coattail and say, hold on, baby. It's about to go left. Let me help you. Let me guide you over here. And this is a person I know, or this is something I've heard of that can help. There is nothing wrong with going and talking to somebody that is not close to your problems about your problems. I'm going to say that again. There is nothing wrong with going to talk to somebody about your problems that is not attached to you. When you constantly talk to people that are so close to your situation about your situation, that weighs on them. And sometimes because your family is so close, their decision making and ideas about it might be jaded and it might not be the best. So go and talk to a professional about your problems and your children. If your children don't look like themselves to you, get them to somebody that can help. Get them to a professional that can help. Sheriff Grantham, last but not least, how do you believe law enforcement can help mothers keep their sons from being traumatized at the hands of law enforcement?
I gotta stand up. I usually don't sit down that long. You guys know I'm hyper.
You're closing us out, Sheriff, for this portion, so go ahead and have your way.
I'm gonna be brief, I promise. I stood up for 2 reasons. I don't want Ms. Miller to throw bricks at me for what I'm about to say. I don't like the term single mom. Let me tell you why. I don't think there's a such thing as a single mom. God knew that you could be a mother, or he would not allow you to become pregnant and birth a child. So we all look for our grandmother or our parents or whatever to help raise that child. I won't get to my question, I'm sorry. To help raise that child. But I'm going to tell you something. In my life, my mother wasn't always there, my dad wasn't always there. Things come up. But God is always going to be there. God's going to be there for you. So don't hesitate to be there. And moms, you're not a failure. I promise you. If your child's bad, a lot of times it is a reflection of the parent, of course, the discipline part. But as long as you're breathing free air, you can make that change. And don't be afraid. You know, I can tell my brother, y'all set me up to go behind Dr. Scott. I promise you. I can call him my brother. We went to junior high school together, Cloverdale over in Montgomery. So I knew what he was going to be. He probably never knew what I was going to be. He probably thought I was going to be the other side of the bars. But anyway, that's a true story, I promise. I grew up rough, I promise you. But anyway, you know, and go back to what Chief Falk said, you know, compliance. I'm not speaking out against her, what she says. She's exactly right what she's saying. Floyd was compliant. He was on the ground in handcuffs. He was compliant. And go back to the question, the kids see that. The kids see he was compliant. I'm scared to death of the cop. He got handcuffs on me, got his knee on my neck. He was compliant. He was doing what the officer said. He ended up dead. Mom, what do? What do? You say comply, and look what happens. Law enforcement is our own worst enemy. The reason why people don't trust law enforcement is because of us, what we do, how we act. You cannot turn on the 6 o'clock news a week, I promise you, I challenge you to, and see where a law enforcement officer is doing something wrong, and abusing somebody, and talking to somebody nasty. Like I said, treat others how you want to be treated. In anything you do, and it'll work. But I encourage parents, mothers especially, when you see the George Floyd, when you see the OJ thing, you know, explain to them what he did was right, what the cops did was wrong, but also when you drive down the road and you see a police officer changing this old lady's tire, you know, you'll run out real fast on somebody shooting bullets like an idiot. want to see that, tell them. Say, hey, look what this officer's doing. He's helping that person. Point out the good. And another thing, this burns me up more than anything in law enforcement. I've been doing law enforcement, I got 35 years on this. You walk through Walmart and you see a kid misbehaving and that parent say, oh, there's the police, he's going to get you. Yeah, I stop him right there. I said, no, I'm just to get mama. I'm just to get mama. I'm not just to get you, son. I'm not about to get you. And you know, we had and I'm not bashing the old sheriff or anything, he was a good guy. We had a thing called Scared Straight. In my opinion, excuse my language, the biggest BS program I've ever seen in my life. You do not traumatize a kid by putting them in jail. If it's my opinion, I don't think a kid should ever see bars, period. I don't even like TV shows with kids seeing bars. You know, because Hollywood glamorizes that. They glamorize the kids back there rapping. They glamorize the area and they see all the tattoos and stuff on their head. They make it like it's good. The gangs out on the street, you know, you get a badge if you go to jail. That's a good thing if you go to jail. You climb ranks in your gang. What good is that? When you're going to eat when I tell you to eat, you're going to use the bathroom when I tell you to eat. Can't even go to your own refrigerator. Let your children know what it's like. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. And tell them the truth. Don't glamorize it. Don't always. You know, most children see law enforcement in a negative way due to the fact the only time they see us, and it's our fault, and I'm being hard on law enforcement, I am. Only time you see us is when we go get mama or daddy and put them in jail. Or go get grandma or whatever. Every one of my deputies carry teddy bears in the back of their car, and that's for a reason. That's for a reason. Let them know. You see us locking up mama, and a little 5-year-old kid, oh, you're taking my mama away. They don't know that, you know, mama or dad just beat mama or what have you. They don't know what they did. All they see is us acting and taking their parents away. You take my parent away, my mama away, you probably going to take me away. And that's what they think. So they're going to act out. They're going to act out against law enforcement. But it's our fault. And the folks, I tell you, we do not have enough training in law enforcement. When we talk about training parents, we got to train ourselves first.
Right.
We have to train ourselves.
Right.
And we lack that. I guarantee you can go to any department out there, and their smallest budget they have probably is training. We spend more money on cars than we do training. That's crazy. Yeah, we know the law. We think we know the law. We have to call the DA to make sure we got it right. I mean, he's a professional in the law. But we'll spend more money on uniforms than we do on training. And then when we send the invoice up for a training school, people who pay the bills look at us like we're crazy. But you know, you spend that $1,200 on that class, it'll save you a $5 million lawsuit. We've got to train. When I say train, I'm talking about parents training their kids what law enforcement really does. And the complying thing, guys, my biggest thing, what I'm focusing on this year, and making a point, and we don't go around to schools, especially the high schools, is training the kids when you get pulled over at a traffic stop. That's where most of it starts. It starts at a traffic stop. Do what the officer tells you to do. So what if you get a ticket? Then you go to Judge Perkins, fight it in court if the officer's wrong. Don't fight it on the street because you're going to lose. I promise if you fight on the street, you're going to lose. You got a better chance of winning in the court than you do on the street. So educate your people what the court system's about. Educate your child of what law enforcement really does, and don't always picture them. And if you see a bad incident of law enforcement on the news, which you're going to see this week, I promise you, point out what that officer did bad. That not all officers are bad. Every profession has a bad apple. Every profession. I don't care if you're a doctor, a lawyer, I don't care what you are. We have bad apples. And if you think you don't, you're wrong. You're wrong. I can't tell you how many officers I had, my own people I've had to put in jail before for being wrong. In prison for being wrong. So, don't be afraid to talk to your child. Be a parent. Quit trying to be a friend. Be a parent. And this is just my personal opinion. I'm going to put the mic down. I'm sorry. Where we messed up at, just my opinion, guys, when we took prayer out of school, the devil came into our school system. It's that simple. It's that simple. And the next legislator, I'm sorry. Guys, and this ain't no, I mean, nobody up here is running. So, guys, be careful for what you vote for. Be careful what you vote for. Make sure you put the right people in office that have what your community needs. That's right. I mean, just because somebody's voting for somebody in Montgomery for one particular thing, that don't mean what Selma and Dallas County needs. We have different needs than anybody else. Our community is totally different than any community I've ever been to. Just because it works in this thing, yeah, we use that as models. We don't try to reinvent the wheel. I mean, the mayor tell you he adopts stuff all the time from other communities. Why reinvent the wheel if you don't have to? But educate, educate, educate. Guys, I told you I'm going to talk just a minute. You know, as law enforcement officers, I always tell the kids, you know, trying to let them warm up to us and stuff. I'll go to a class or something, I'll say, what's the one thing I can't take from you? They'll say a house. I said, no, I'll sell dope in that house, and I'll be living in that house. You can't take my car. I said, shoot out of that car and see if I don't have that car, selling it for $5. What's the one thing? I say education. It's very rare a kid will pick that. Guys, education is very important. Educate your children, not only about law enforcement, educate them about life skills. You know, everybody's not going to go to college. Plumbers make more money than I make, which ain't saying much. But please, 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 don't, when you're talking to your kids about law enforcement, don't always show them in the negative light. If you see them changing a tire, let them know and say, hey, our law enforcement does that. And we as law enforcement, we got to do better. We often forget it says protect and serve. We forget to serve them. God bless you.
Well, well, well. I think this was an exceptional panel. Let's give it up to And Ms. Rowe, I don't know about you, but I would have much rather have done this than have to be Ike and Tina on Monday. Y'all, we were almost gonna have to be Ike and Tina to Monday, but I think we've satisfied our requirement for being up on the mic at this point. So can we just not be Ike and Tina, Dr. Bird? Can you just he said we don't have to be, so we're good to go. So we've done our part, and at this time, again, we want to thank everyone, and we really have enjoyed learning from this panel as well. We want to turn it back into the hands of Ms. Millage, who will give us our next guidance, and we also want to thank Ms. Millage for having us.
Thank you so much for planning this. As a current single mother or mother parenting alone, I don't know what I'm calling myself these days, but I've enjoyed this thoroughly. This has been great. So, Ms. Millage, where to next?
Okay, I hope you all have enjoyed it so far. Before we move any further, you know, we let the panelists talk, but I'm sure there's some moms out there that have some questions. So moms, if you have questions, if you can come up, we'll bring the mic to you. Do we have anybody that wants to take time out to ask a question of someone on the panel, or just ask a question in general to let the panelists answer it? Do we have anybody? Come on, moms, this is your time.
Is it just mom? No.
Well, you're a mom. You are a mom. We'll take it to Judge Walker.
Just one quick question.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm interested in knowing, and this is for the education system. How many faculty and staff members in the Dallas County Selma City school system are single parents?
It's quite a few of us. It's quite a few of us.
I heard the 80% of the students, and that's what triggered the question.
It's actually quite a few of us, and I'm going to tell this story. When we first started talking about this, Dr. Bird brought out the fact that there were so many single parents, and I, along with Ms. Rowe, we got a little emotional about it. We were like, hey, we're single parents, don't single us out, but it's quite a few of us, believe it or not. Quite a few. Do you have a roundabout number, Dr. Bird?
I don't have a roundabout number, but I mean, we all know what the majority of our employees are a reflection of our community.
Yes.
So I would say probably the same thing, probably around about 7 to 8% of our employees are probably single parents, especially for our females.
And I became a mom overnight, literally.
Testing. All right. First of all, just amen and amen. I want to give God praise. I almost could go into a praise break for this atmosphere because I think something beautiful is happening in Selma. And I know I keep saying that over and over and over again, but for those people, and I'm glad I've only been in the trauma for 2 years, but for those that y'all have been in it over 20 years, I bet y'all ain't seen nothing like what God is doing right now. He's healing. And I want to lift this up to you all as it relates to community. I know we are talking about parents, But you have children that grow up in maybe an unhealthy home, but they grow up in a healthy community and they can still thrive. So I would just lift up the root of what's happening with our children is not just what's happening with single parents, but what's happening with parenting. I don't have an issue with a parent. I don't have issue with an adult. What I am seeing in the root of my issues from my lens is adulting and parenting. Regardless of whether it's a single parent or married parents, whether it's whatever, we have an issue with adulting, parenting, and the process. The process doesn't work. The system is broken, and every single child that has come in my courtroom has been absolutely set up to fail in an intersectional way. And the only reason I took this mic today, I see why God had me sitting here. I needed to see this because I needed my hope renewed. Because what is this, 129? Is it Senate Bill 129? Is that the name of the new DEI bill? What a I want to stand and say this publicly because I'm about to write an open letter and I think we're about to kind of turn this up, but I want to say this. This is what is required for us to have this breakthrough, because we are going to have a shift in culture and a shift in mindsets. We can sit up here and talk at people all day long. We can give all the answers, but telling me what to do is very different than telling me how to do it. And as a believer, I know with what I have seen and how bad this is, that it's going to take the power of the Holy Ghost for us to have a breakthrough. So we're going to have to humble ourselves and shift our mindsets. Everybody's going to have to repent, but we're going to have to do it together. And so my question is, for community, we see the movement, we see it happening. Are we willing to commit to this for the long haul? Because this is diversity, this is equity, and this is inclusion. Our kids are not a monolith. Even in one community, you say, let's pick single moms. Single moms aren't a monolith. There are 15 million different iterations in a single mom. Black boys are not a monolith. There are 15 million different intersectional issues that happen for that young boy to get healing. It's gonna require us having everybody at the table with all of our differences and all of our issues and all of our generational trauma and all of the trauma that we've caused each other. It's going to require us all sitting down and adulting in a different way to show up for these kids, because it's not just with all of us, the community as a whole. Adults have failed our children because they are growing up in not just the home that we created, but the community. And I am saying that I know it can be parent to parent, and we have to do this as individual decisions, but we're going to have to shift a culture, and it's going to require a movement. And we're going to have to do it together. Even though we don't like each other, can't get along, can't resolve a dispute, can't work together, that is where the shift is going to have to happen. It's going to have to happen in everybody having a mirror with themselves. I have to change. Every single one of us have to change. And if we start that movement, the kids are going to follow us. But can we do it together in community in a diverse way? Because we're not the same. Diverse means you're different. So if we're going to promote diversity, that means we're going to acknowledge that we're different and say, hey, but God brought us all in, and I believe that He has a way for us, even with our differences, to work together to solve problems in an adult way. That means intelligently, evidence-based, with scholarship and best practices, hearing from everybody, knowing that everybody has something to get from the table. When we talk about trauma, we are a trauma-driven community. Intergenerationally, we got to talk about that, because we can't do real healing and can't really have a breakthrough with our kids until we get to these roots. That's going to require these a lot, with a lot of different types of people at the table coming together, talking in a healthy way. I ask Selma, I ask you all, and I ask those watching, are we willing to humble ourselves and learn to be different? And are we willing to stand up to the forces? Do we want our children free and changed and healed? Do we want our violence changed in our community? Do we want my courtroom cleared out? Sheriff don't have no jobs. They can just go come to schools because we don't have nothing to do. That's going to require us to change. And now the government is telling us we can't even come together in a diverse way and include everybody and try to figure out something that works for everybody. How dare we will take your government funds if you do this. I bind that devil in the name of Jesus. Because it's demonic. You're trying to block the very thing that God is telling us to do, which is humble ourselves and come together with people with differences at the table, figuring out a way that this thing can work in a healthy way for everybody, and believing for the Holy Spirit to change me first, then everybody. That's literally the gospel and the power of the Holy Spirit on this earth. So will we choose our children over politics? Will we choose our children over whatever historical? That's so obvious, a rhetorical question, but it's a real one. And I say this because I'm inspired and I'm fired up, because I believe that God has chosen us whether we have chosen him or not. Because this is happening even without us actually saying it. How in the world are all of these things happening at the same time? Something beautiful is happening in Selma again. Revival is hitting this city again. But will we own it? Will we repent? And will we adult? Not blaming the next person, putting the mirror in front of me and saying, how can I humble myself? How can I change? How to be better? Not trying to be perfect, getting a chance to mess up, but knowing when I mess up, you say, you know what, I got that wrong, I'm sorry. I talked too long. I'm sorry. It's okay. Can we adult? Because we got our own trauma. Do we really, really want to heal, or do we want to perform? I'm not here for performance. Because these kids' lives are on the line, and neither is D.A. Turner, neither is Sheriff Grantham, neither is anybody up here, neither is Ebony. Everybody up here is checked in, loaded, locked, and ready to go, and is willing to humble and change anything that they're doing wrong. And I can go through the same thing with people out here in this audience, because we in the trenches and we doing the work. So whoever say we're not unified, they a lie. Y'all might not be unified in your various agencies, but everybody is unified for these children. And I see it happening. So I ask, will you continue? Will you continue the model the way? And will we stand up together in opposition of anything that will prohibit us coming together and doing this on a regular basis, no matter how hard, how traumatizing, and how difficult it is? Can we see humanity in each other? Can we apologize where we've been wrong? Because you can't fake this anointing with these kids. They'll look at you and say, this one I know, but who is you? And so I'm just asking us rhetorically and individually, I'm fired up, and I'm just asking, are we really seeing what we're seeing, and can we continue to do this systematically and bring about this real change? Because this is doable, y'all. This is not impossible. We got everything we need. These kids are the richest kids ever. There's so much money about to come in. They just need us to be mature and to change and repent in every area, from the schools to the parents to the courts. We need order. We need evidence-based strategies, and we need to do it together in a humble, healthy way. Can we heal? Can these dry bones live? Absolutely. So my question is, are you willing to stay at the table when it's time to have these tough conversations as we move forward? Because this is not the end. This is a seed, and it's going to grow in a million different ways, but we're going to have to sit and do the tough things, even in ways that may be harmful to us. Can we do that? So my answer is yes. I'm committing on behalf of my office and my staff. I'm committing to apologizing when I get it wrong. I'm committing to speaking up even when I feel shut out. I'm committing to calling out inequities, but in a healthy way, right? I gotta learn to watch my mouth. We all do. But can we do the work? Because it's now or never. Thank you, Judge. An African, go ahead.
I apologize if I'm going before you. I know this is Q&A for the people in the audience, but as I sat here, and I just want to go ahead and get out what I have to say, because unfortunately I have to go to work. I'm sorry, but on a Saturday, so ghetto. But thank God I have a job. And I too am going to stand up, y'all. My
feet are tingling. When I was first asked to do this, y'all, immediately, be yourself. A lot of you may know me from my social media. A lot of you know me personally. Some of you just know me from coming in Walmart. Yeah, I keep it real. I thank each and every one of you here. I'm gonna be myself just for a minute. I live right across the street. I live right here in Selma all my life. Y'all, I have 3 boys, 19, 16, and 11. I have learned that I have to speak their language. I have to get on their level. Sometimes I say, hey, come here, let me holler at you, old boy. On God, if you don't have my kitchen clean when I get off, I know such and such, such and such. Let me holler. On my hood, if them teachers have to call me from that school, I know I'm gonna get on your level. All of you guys have said some words. I should have told my auntie to be writing something. I don't know what the hell it means. I don't know to Google it. But I say that to say, in order to reach out to a lot of people, now we have to speak their language, y'all. And it's not just about single mothers. It went hand in hand. When they first asked me this, I was like, I don't want to be on the spot. It ain't nobody business. I'm a single mama, this, that, and this. That's why a lot of women in here, that's why a lot of women didn't come, because they're ashamed of some of their decisions, not knowing that we have given birth to greatness. We are instilling in these kids what greatness is about. Our kids are our future. And aside of just the single moms being in here, the next time that y'all put this together, I want to see the fathers that's making these women single mothers. I want some kind of laws enforcement. You have our black men locked up, and not just black, it's not about color. Y'all work in Walmart, I see a lot of white single mothers. I see a lot of Latino single mothers. I seen a Filipino the other day. She's a single mother. It's not about color, it's not about race, but I want you guys to get some of the men in here too, because why are we single mothers? What is going on? It takes 2. We didn't make the baby by ourselves, so bring the ones in here that played a part in us becoming. Why did you leave? Why aren't you here? What are you afraid of? What can I do to help you be a father to yours? Be the type of father to your child that you feel like you didn't have. And believe it or not, some of us may not want to admit it. You have parents in you have kids in 2-parent home, and the mother is still a single mother. I've seen so many girls in my community got a sorry man laid up in the back room playing PlayStation 5. She trying to do hair, cook, just got out of work. The children out of school playing in their school clothes. Why is it 5 o'clock and your child is outside still in his school clothes? Hadn't eaten and your baby daddy laying back there in the bed. I want the men to get together and put something together for these young men that's laying around making 8, 9, 10 babies and don't have a steady job to feed themselves. That is a problem. Being a single mom is never gonna end. It's never gonna, we just have to do better, and in order to do better, y'all, we can't just put stuff on social media and that's gonna come out. Y'all, we gotta knock on doors. We gotta go to schools. You gotta be in a doctor's office. We need all role models to be on every street corner. You understand what I'm saying? I just felt that in my spirit. I just felt that in my heart when you were saying something about respect. Even with I feel like in law enforcement, they should go through I don't know if they do, I don't know. Go through a mental health course. Go through a parenting course. I had a child who was wrongfully done by an officer. My child was in surrender mode, and he still proceeded to tase my child. That was a problem. You understand? But I did not tell my child what the rules and regulations were to a traffic stop. So at a certain point, I feel like I may have failed him on that, but I wasn't looking forward to that happening. But moving forward, son, this is what we do. I don't know what type of issues that police had. That's why I said everyone needs a mental health check. I don't care what, a therapist needs a therapist. I do hair. I sometimes need somebody to do my hair. It's more than about sitting up here on the panel and we using big words and we got on these nice cuts, we look good. Y'all, we got to get on their level. We got to talk like they talk. We got to walk with them, in front of them, not beside them, not behind them. And like I said, and I'm going to be done. The next time we get together for this, I want to see males just like I want to see the baby daddies. Yeah, bonding with baby daddies. They need to see what is happening. They need to see why everyone loves to say, the one that want to be the man and the one, why are you leaving that job to me? You know? And then it has a lot to do with the music. We can call 99 bitches. And I'm just being honest. This is about, you said be yourself. We can call thoughts, we can call hoe, we can, and you got the boys, they vibing to it. They jamming to it. Get them in the studio. Let them write a song about positive. Change the narrative. But it's going to take more than just saying, more than just doing. Why is it the YMCA open? Why are summer jobs limited? Come on, we need more resources also. You see that most of this generation, they're addicted to gaming. Why don't we have a building where you can learn, not just play the game, but be the person to build the game? Open up their minds, give them something to do. My relatives all the time, their kids don't come when we have family. This is my aunt. She can tell you Christmas ain't even Christmas no more. The floor ain't packed at grandma's house because most of them don't want to sell my board. Ain't nothing to do with sell. Why? Why? We want our young men to be better and have some. Why? Only thing they have is school. If you got a little job, go to work, go home, play your game. Why? Because a village that does not embrace its children will soon be burned down by it. And Selma is on fire because we have not embraced our children. That is an African proverb. They're burning the city down because we have not embraced our children. We have forgotten about them in all our trauma and all our drama with adults. And in every entity you look at where somebody is in a position of power, it doesn't matter if it's a church or the police or the school system or wherever, it's adults and the children are suffering. So why, Miss Ebony? It is because we have failed to embrace these children, and the African proverb says, a village that fails to embrace the children will soon be burned down by it. Selma is on fire. That's what's happening in Selma.
Excuse me. One thing.
Response, yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, y'all.
Oh, go ahead. Okay. Listen, real quick.
Come on,
First thing, let me just say this. Ebony, I like it. This is your aunt. Is that the?
Stand up, Auntie. Fun fact about me, y'all. This is my only. This is my dope.
This is you have dope dealers in the hood. This is my hope dealer. This is my hope dealer.
Yes.
I'm a 36-year-old adult. She is the head person of my village. Just because you're grown don't mean, well, I know a couple 46-year-olds need IEPs. Let's just be honest. This is the head of my village so that I'm able to be head of the village for my children. This is my hope dealer. And I just thank you, Auntie, for coming. This is the only one came to support me this morning, and I thank you for that. Thank you.
Good, because I'm in that vein. She stated that you were fortunate enough to go to Walmart. Isn't that what you said? Okay, fortunate enough to job. And I'm going to say this to you prophetically. Yes, it is fortunate, and I'm going to tell you why. Because I believe that people follow our faith until they get it right. So they follow everything that we do and everything that we say. They're watching us, and it's ironic. I just got a text message from someone who I have been mentoring, and you know how you tell people things over and over and over again, and they finally get it, and they finally text me and said they finally got it. So what I'm saying to you is that as you go through this community and as you do that, you're going to be what your aunt has been to you, and that is a hope dealer, because people are watching everything that you do, and you're doing a positive work, and you're doing a great work, and you're the one that's going to be a part of the whole total transformation and the whole shift. Everybody say shift. 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 You got to get that in your spirit, and you got to go wherever you go, no matter where it's Walmart Whether it's wherever you are going to be in Selma, you are that ship, and you're the person that's here. And I think Craig said it earlier, it just doesn't matter who is here. It don't matter whoever's supposed to be here is the one that's supposed to be here. You're the ones that's going to go in and you're going to make that shift. But I wanted to say that you stated that law enforcement needed to make sure that we take classes in order to be able to understand these kids. I know Montgomery County Sheriff's Office, I work for Sheriff Derek Cunningham, and of course we're all friends. We don't, and we just had a meeting this past Friday, and we talked about sharing our resources with other counties because of the fact that, and with other police departments too, because sometimes you all may not have those resources, okay? And so what we do is we offer these free trainings such as juvenile mental health and things such as that. So what we want to do, and I'm sure he doesn't have a problem with this at all, is that we partner with everybody. We're going to partner with Mike, and we're going to say, well, listen, whatever Selma needs, we're going to make sure that we're here in order to be able to provide those courses, because, let me tell you why, we are in the process of doing that because we have to weed out the bad officers that come in, because once they start taking training classes and once they're held accountable for a lot of things, then those are the officers that we just don't need on the force, and we just don't need that. And to add to that, I like what you said about your son. I will never forget, in Montgomery, we used to have a place, and this is real quick, I don't know if y'all remember Skate Haven? Yeah. Okay, y'all from okay, so I remember going to Skate Haven on Sunday nights in the summer. And the rule was in our churches that you had, in my mama's house, you had to go to church first. We had to do YPWW in the afternoon, and then we could go skating. And so that's what we would do. So I went there and I had just gotten some braces. And you know how they have the rubber band in the back of your mouth, to keep that. So I went to Skate Haven, and the rule was that you cannot chew gum on skating rinks. So long story short, I got out there with my friends and I kept doing this. And there were two officers that saw me. I think you probably remember the story. Two officers that saw me and came and grabbed me. And I was a kid. I was about 14 years old, and I was at Coverdale, I think. And he said, "Didn't we tell you not to?" And they were two white officers. And he took me and he slammed me down. He said, "Didn't we tell you not to chew gum?" I said, "Yeah, but I wasn't sure." "Yes, you were. Take your blankety blanket skates off and call your mom and tell her to come in here and get you." I said to myself, "Do you really want to do that?" So my mama came up there with rollers, with that pocketbook. Let me tell you something, when a black woman get that pocketbook like this, it's over. So she came up there and she went to them and said whatever she needed to say. She told me to get in the car, and I got back in the car, and she said, "Son, whatever you do, always make sure that adults tell you make sure that you follow instructions." That's all she said. I said, "Well, can I go back?" She said, "Yeah, and in just a couple of weeks you can go back." So she went and talked to my dad about it, and my dad, they made a decision, so my dad took me back up there, and those police officers weren't there. But what she didn't do is say, "Well, them officers ain't this, those police officers ain't this, and they ain't that, and especially since they white, they ain't this." She never put that on me, because I was a child, and a child, we're not wired to be able to understand that. And so as a result of it, I learned it later, and I asked her what she told him later. She told me later what she told him. But the bottom line is that if she had told me then, I wouldn't have known that. And if she had told me what she said, then what was going to be my attitude towards officers when I saw them? It would have been negative. So you have to be very careful with how you do that. And so since that, what we've done is we've decided to make sure that we want to do, the reduction of, there's one thing about when you have to take one down, you have to do something, you have to do a lot of paperwork, you have to give justification why you've had to do all of that. And a lot of times when we do excessive use of force, we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that we can de-escalate it. So that's why we offer crisis intervention training and de-escalation training in order to be able to help officers assist in reducing the excessive use of force.
So let me say this real quick, because as a man I got to say this. Now, my wife and I have been married 21 years. We got 3 kids, 3 boys. if we get a divorce, it's going to be because of my boys. Now let me tell you what happens from a male perspective. My 5-year-old, he'll get to crying. He'll run through the living room, run in the wall, bam, start crying. My wife run in the room, pick him up, hug him, kiss him, love him, rock him, and make sure he understands, baby, I got your back, mama love you, you're gonna be all right. If mama not there, he run into that same wall. Dad is sitting on the couch. I look at him, you know what I say? AJ, get up. Guess what he do? He get up. But when you take me out of the equation, you don't have anybody telling that black boy to get up. So he think that his mama gonna save him every time. And that is not what's gonna happen in this real world. 1 in 3 black men end up in prison, incarcerated, because they've been babied by their mama and their teachers their whole life. And so, listen, me and my wife, our biggest argument is about them kids, because I'm telling her to stop babying them boys. That is a boy, that is not a girl. You gotta let him go through some stuff, because in the real world, a black man gonna have to go through some stuff. And if you don't let him go through it, he ain't gonna know how to deal with it. Stop babying them black boys.
I got to piggyback. That is so awesome. So many times we get calls in the morning for school. 10:35, ungovernable, don't want to go to school. First of all, why is that parent calling the police? Because their child don't want to go to school. And now the parents are getting to the point where they want us to raise their kids. They want us. And the same parents that we deal with, the schools are dealing with the kids because of the attitudes of the parents. So many times when the school call the parents, you see why? Yes. Because of the parent. That is so true. The truth, I had to piggyback on that. I mean, I just can't understand for the life why you got to call the police because your child won't go to school.
Now we got the football coach here, and I'm surprised he hadn't got the mic and said, y'all show up for the football games in drones. If this was a preseason football game and you had to see what you had to do to get your son on his football team, this gym would be packed. But we talking about saving our sons, we talking about academics and they don't show up. And I hate stuff like this because we're preaching to the choir. The one that show up ain't the one that need to hear it. And we beating up people who are doing what they supposed to do. And so this is a slippery slope. Y'all, she said a key word, equity. If you ain't paying attention to what's going on in the legislature, I'm a professional speaker. I wrote 7 books. One of my books is called The Athletic Trap. Another was called The IEP Trap. Like, I ain't gonna talk about that right now, but I got a phone call from Oklahoma City to come out there and speak to their school district in this summer, in July. Them people, Mr. Boykin, we love your message. We want you to come and speak to the kids. We only got a couple of requirements. When you come, you can't use the word equity. You can't use the word inclusion. You can't talk about diversity. You can't talk about equality. You got to leave those words out of your presentation. So then I put it on Facebook because I'm like, wait a minute, is this where we're going? I can't talk about certain words when I go in school district. Then people start saying, oh, that's not just Oklahoma, that's Texas, that's Iowa, that Alabama finna follow suit. Florida been on board with that. You sit there and not pay attention to what's happening. And these folks is taking certain language out of education and putting shackles on people. What you do? Listen, oh, we can't talk about equity, but we can talk about homosexuality and show them. Because you got teachers telling them about LGBTQ, but they can't talk about equity. So what's the real agenda?
I love everything we're talking about at this moment, but you all have to be honest with you. We have a time that we need to move on. We said this panel discussion is going to last a certain amount of time, so we've got to move on. I understand we have some people in the audience that still have a question. But if you all don't mind, is it crucial that you have your question? I'm looking your way because I understand. Okay, I'll come back to you. And I understand, Judge Wooten, you have a question?
Yes.
Come on up, and matter of fact, you can come on up and we can transition from your question into your breakout session, so come on up. Because we have breakout sessions, you all, that we're supposed to do, so I'm trying to keep us moving. And I promise there is a part 2 to this, and we have discussed bringing men in. We have discussed that. So we're going to come on up, have him to ask his question or make his statement, and then transition into his breakout session. And immediately following him, we will bring up LaMarcus Snow, and then we'll just continue on to try to get in our breakout sessions. You all, just bear with us. I know this is good. This is good as it gets, and it's not as good as it's gonna get, as my mamas would say. So just stay with us. You come on.
Amen, amen. This is a good dialogue. Good dialogue. I'm really enjoying it. So I guess we're making this segue into my section, but I did have a question. So first I want to say that this is an awesome dialogue. I think we need more of this going on in our community to help strengthen our kids and to talk about real issues that they're facing and what we need to do to strengthen it. So this should continue. I want this to continue, different sessions like we talked about, but also the people in here listening, it's like a light being lit inside me. So we talk about this at church as being a light carrier and taking this light that's being lit in us, going out and spreading it throughout the community. So I challenge everybody to do that. And we had a little conversation. It almost went into my question, but my question is going to be for Coach Day or either Pastor Milton or anybody that had experience with extracurricular activities in sports. So from your perspective as being a coach, Little League sports, any sports, or from your perspective of playing, coaching or playing, I want to know your opinion in, a lot of times I do coaching as well, so a lot of times what you have is mothers who don't really want you to get on the child, don't really want you to say anything to them. So your perspective on how that can help or hinder a child, and other instances where maybe you've been influenced by a coach or a mentor that that situation has helped you that one of y'all can remember. And this is for anybody that plays sports. I know y'all two did. I'm pretty sure some others did as well though.
Again, I think that's a great question. Outstanding. I think it's 2 parts to it. And the second part I answer first in terms of, was there somebody that had a positive influence on me that I came across through sports in the coaching world. I mentioned this at one of our previous leadership meetings at the school system. That was a 7th grade coach that I had when I was in the 7th grade with the Jones Valley Middle School, Birmingham, Alabama. During this time, I'm surrounded by nothing but, when we say gangs, no, they were really about that. We talk about drug dealing, no, we were really about that. I'm talking about the projects all across the street, right? With that being said, though, what he showed me was he was a guy that was outside of the drug world, the street hustling or manipulation type of world, and he had what I wanted in life. Meaning he had what appeared to be the financial stability that I wanted. He drove the type of cars that I wanted. He had the kind of credibility with the street people and the church that I wanted, right? Both aspects respected how he went about his business. And he was a very strong man to the point where he was the first coach that would not allow me to misbehave or not handle my business in the classroom and still play. And for me, that was a big shock because I'd always been, up until that point, the best player or most impactful player on whatever team I was on, whether it was basketball, football, quarterback football, and shooting guard, basketball, leading scorer, this. So I was able to get away with, from different teachers included, right? I was able to get away with not really doing everything I need to do. And that coach, he went up on me to get away with that. And I say that to say this though, right? He might have risked his professional credibility in order to save my life. Right? A lot of times as coaches, you get judged by the wins and losses. And they do not realize whether or not you might have made a decision that might have hurt the win column, right, or the scoreboard, but might have saved a life, if that makes sense. And so with me, he took some losses that season that I know for a doubt, without a doubt, if I would have played, in my opinion, there's no question we would have won far more games. And he knew that, right? But because he was willing to, guess what, go on punishment with me too, right? I was able to get the point. And me sitting out, oh man, should I go to the game? I'm watching, they losing them. I'm waiting for everybody. Well, we miss you. They ain't say a word to me. They were mad at me, they wouldn't study me. All of a sudden I realized, oh, okay, if I want to be a part of this team, if I want to do it, get what he said, son, here's how I got there, right? And so that was impactful to me, having somebody that gave me that tough love, right? Was willing to put some of their professional credibility on the line so that I could learn the lesson. And the second thing and that's the first part of the question about maybe when the parent is not necessarily as supportive as you would like them to be when you're being somewhat tough on their child. I'll say this, coaches, sit down with your parents and find out exactly what their goals are for their child too. Right? We get so wrapped again, wins and losses. I'm gonna sit down with my parent, I'm gonna sit down with my athlete, and I'm gonna ask my parent, hey, what would you like when their high school career is done or during their high school career, what do you want it to look like? Currently and post. Ask the same thing with the child. Now, parent, I'm able to lay out for you in order for us to get there, you're not caught off guard by the tough conversation we may have to have at some time. I've already forewarned you that if you want your child to get to this particular point, there's going to be some tough times, some highs and lows, sometimes some things I might say you might not agree with, but guess what? Here's how we're going to go about that. When we have those times, let's sit down and talk about it and see if we can come to some kind of resolution together. But the point is, including them, because sometimes that parent does not know how the discipline you instill on their child is helping them. Sometimes they might not even know why you even put that discipline on them. Something happened in the classroom, you kept them out of it, and hey, Tim's going to have to run a little bit after practice, Mom. He know why. He got up on Miss Jenkins in class. I call him being disrespectful to this, right? So again, sit down with the parent and making sure they're on the same page as to, hey, this is how I'm going to go about working with your child and helping them get to the goals that you have for them and they have for themselves as well.
If I can, I would add, as a former athlete and I coach Little League, one of the things that helped so much with discipline in my life, that I had coaches, some of you know about Pastor Raymond Brown. He wasn't a pastor on the baseball field. He wasn't a pastor, he was a coach and got up in my face. But he was instilling in me a form of discipline that I definitely wouldn't get at home. We had to run the field as pitchers to have discipline so when the ninth inning comes, we're not tired. So as a college student, when those late hours are burning and I got a midterm to study for, I'm reminded that I got to be ready for the ninth inning. That impacted me in my education. When Coach Maxey had us running suicides as a basketball player. Coach, why you got us running like this? It's just a game, but he's getting us ready for the fourth quarter of life. And so when I get to tough situations in my life and say, well, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, that Coach Maxey's voice come in my ear. That Coach Williams' voice, Coach Harris' voice come in my ear. You got to keep pressing because we win in the fourth quarter. So having coaches in our lives, getting our children involved in sports, it gives us discipline. That's the key word, discipline. I tie that back to the church. You can't be a disciple unless you got discipline. That's what all of this is about. Getting disciplined as parents, getting disciplined as adults. And to the question about why young men or fathers not, there's no discipline with our young men. So they can make babies and walk away because there's no discipline. All of this coming from coaching. If you're going to be the man on the field, you got to have discipline. If you're going to be the captain of the baseball team, you got to have discipline. When we lost the baseball, Coach Brown didn't go to the rest of the team. It was two of us, he came to the whole team because we were the players on the team. He said, we lost because of you all. You all weren't disciplined enough during the game. So we had to run it to get us back to the disciplines. And so, yes, coaching is important. You'll coach yourself, Judge, Attorney Wooten, you'll coach yourself. And so I encourage men to get them active in children's lives to be coaches. Because coaching pulls some stuff out of you that you don't know you have. I'm coaching Little League and I got parents on the sideline. Hit the ball, they strike it out. And I'm saying, Mama, shut up! I don't care if they strike out. I just want them to be able to stand at the plate. That's all I want to know, because if you can stand at the plate, you can stand up in life. I'm not trying to teach for them to win or coach them to win. I'm coaching them to be ready, because I know, coaching, you know, 99% of the people on your team ain't going nowhere. They ain't going to the league. Well, we treat them like they're going to the NBA, going to the MLB, going to the NFL. There's 1 out of probably 20 million that's going to make it. Well, they can become anything they want to become outside of sports. So stand up at the plate. Let them strike out and say, you know what, they tease me. They tease me. You keep telling them, good job, let's have fun. And you losing. We down by 20 points. You losing. But to see the smile on their faces when they strike out and the coach say, that's all right, great son, next time you get them, next time you get in the game. And that's what our young men need, our young girls need. You may have fallen this time, but we'll get it again. You can get back up. You can make it. You can strive. One failure is not the end of it. I'm going to stop because I feel preaching now. Let me stop.
She told me 1 minute. 1 minute. I'm going to put my input on sports. It validates it. I told you before they had holes in them when they born with 1 half missing. And when you score that touchdown, it validates me as a human being. When I get that 30 back on that test, it doesn't validate me. So sports validate them in ways that in other ways in life they don't get validation from anyone. Their mom not telling them she loves them. Their mom not telling them you can be somebody. But the coach telling them, well, you a bad man. What? That's validation. 1 minute, man. See, I get away with it. She's not even listening. So I mean, I keep going. I'm just going.
Okay, you all, I'm going to do this quick. I want to introduce everybody that's going to be taking part in a breakout session. I feel like that's only fair. And then we will begin the breakout session. So I'm going to start with, I'm coming back to you since you're already here, but LaMarcus Snow. He is the owner and CEO of Snow's Cleaning Service. Can you stand up for us? He is going to do a breakout session. I know you all are already familiar with him, but I felt like it was important to bring him in because of his story and the things that he has gone through in life. Then we have Raji Gordine. Raji, where are you? Oh, he has stepped out. Well, Raji, he's the Dean of Workforce Development and Technical Programs at Wallace Community College, and he's also a former single father. I know that hits some people sometimes, that word single father of 2 boys. Then we have Astrid Craig. Let me get it right. She is the Senior Program Officer at the Dallas County System of Service here in Selma, Alabama. Now, in her role, she's going to talk about some of the various programs that children could be enrolled in, and we feel like that's crucial because we do want to keep our children active academically as well as in the community. And then, of course, standing right here beside me, we have Brandon Wooten, who is the Selma Municipal Court presiding judge, and he's going to talk to us. Now, my other 2 that were supposed to be on this breakout session won't be on there today, okay? All right, because I had you all on the panel and we're trying to stick with the time frame, okay? Is that okay, everybody? Okay, I appreciate that. Okay, so without further ado, we're just gonna go ahead with you, Judge Wooten. Thank you.
Thank you. So, well, I wanna, yeah, I can. I'll be brief, but I do wanna offer something. I saw our district attorney, Robert Turner. Did you want to say something real quick? I saw you.
It'll be real quick. When I saw the agenda, I was waiting for that question to be asked, even though I'm not a coach. But one of the things that I think that parents need to understand is that I got to take my child and get his braids twisted. That's why he missed practice, and then expect him to play. It's not a valid life lesson. And what happens sometimes when we're trying to develop and we're trying to understand how stuff works, the absence of, I guess, diversity in the household and different perspectives in the household, our culture has gotten to the point where kids miss practice to go shopping, and then people expect them to play and start. And that is not how life works. So when you raised that question, I came here, when I saw the agenda, to say that. Because that's one of the things that I've seen coaching, that's one of the things that I saw as a transition. When I was in high school, I think we were in 4-H. Y'all remember 4-H? And in Perry County, we won the state dairy judging championship. And we were supposed to go to Wisconsin. 4 black kids going to Wisconsin in a dairy judging championship. The problem with that is that we were supposed to go to Wisconsin the day that we were playing Southside in my first varsity football game. So I talked to Richard Smith, who was our county extension coordinator, and I talked to my parents. I said, I am not going to Wisconsin to judge no cows. We have a game. And back then, it meant that much because competition, if you don't play, the dude that was next to you is going to take your spot, and you are not going to have a spot. And as parents, and sometimes people who are raising kids and you didn't play sports, you got to understand that when the coach has your son on the bench, don't march your tail down to the bench talking about why my son ain't playing today. Because he should say, and we need more coaches like this to say, baby, your son missed 3 practices this week. 1 because he had to look after the kids, 1 because you took him to get his braids twisted, and the other day because his stomach was hurt. He ain't off the team, but he ain't gonna start.
All good points. Awesome. So, looking at some things that were said today, listening to Pastor Milton, he talked about something that's been a consistent theme that I heard. He talked about Coach Harris, Coach Maxson, and Coach Brown. It's all of the same young men, all the same men that he just talked about also mentored me. And so it was just in this room with Milton and myself talking, they mentored us. So how many other men have they mentored? How many other men have they helped? So that's something that we need in our community. And I know we hear about single mothers and advice to single mothers, but I don't believe in any stigma or any of that that's been attached to it, because I grew up with another young man who his mom was single, and he went on to play professional football and become a lawyer and do whatever he wanted to do. But one thing that I noticed with him is he played sports with me as well. So all of these same coaches, it took a village to kind of install things in them and teach certain things. So it takes a village to raise the child. What I'm here to talk to you today about is things involving the legal realm as it relates to kids, anything in that spectrum. What I wanted for my talk to be is more so like a Q&A or a consultation type scenario. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask. But jumping right in, I'm Brandon Wooten. I'm the municipal court judge here in Selma. And one thing in municipal court is we don't deal with many juveniles in municipal court. But when we do deal with juveniles, it's only going to be with things like tickets or traffic citations and things like that in district and municipal court. Primarily with kids, you'll be dealing with district courts would be Judge Perkins, who was here earlier, or who has stepped out momentarily. So primarily that's going to be with district court. But in municipal court, one thing that we do when we have juveniles, because we really want to tailor it to the community and help the community, we always offer situations where if they have a traffic citation or something like that, we can offer them what's called youthful offender, which just means that it's sealed, or either we offer scenarios where they can intern or work in the different offices of local government as opposed to paying off any fines or fees. So we just offer that as an incentive to try to teach our young kids things that they can do to further their career path. Just a few things. The law is vast when it comes to kids, but some things that I think come up more often than not involving children would be I think child support comes up a lot. So child support is something that's offered to the primary custodian of a child. That could be a male or that could be a woman. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with taking advantage of child support. That's something that you are entitled to. Just one caveat when it comes to child support, and this is really important to me in the legal world, but child support, if you file and get child support, is actually a custody determination, which means you are de facto ordered to have custody of that child if you get child support. That's important for a few reasons, but foremost is when dealing with custody and children, that first time around when you get custody, that standard is if you get child support, you get custody, but the standard is in the best interest of the child. If you come back again to modify that custody award, then that new standard would be what we call a McClendon standard, which would be there has to be a substantial change in circumstance. So if you do get child support or if you do get custody, it's going to be very hard to get that change in the long run. If something came about to get it modified, it'd have to be a substantial change in circumstance from that complete thing. Any questions on child support?
What qualifies as a substantial change in your life that maybe cause a change? What qualifies?
All right, so the question is about child support and, well, specifically about custody and what qualifies as a substantial change in circumstance to change that custody. Well, to change the child support amount, not the custody, the child support amount. Well, usually what courts want in order to change the child support amount, you can go back to court anytime to get that change. What they look for is a deviation of about 10% in the incomes. So it's not a certain amount of time you can go back to get that change. So if it's ever a situation where you feel like somebody is making more income or the incomes have changed, feel free anytime to go back to court and do that. You can do that by hiring a private attorney like myself, or you can do that by going through DHR and having them do that for free for you. So of course, if you get a private attorney, we may move it through the system a little bit quicker, be more attentive to your needs, but either way, through DHR or a private attorney, then that gets done. Hope I answered about that child support. Any other questions about child support or anything? All right, great. Another aspect of the law that relates to children would be our juvenile delinquency court. That's another court that's going to be in Judge Perkins' courtroom in district court. What delinquency court is basically if any juvenile has a charge or gets into trouble at school, it could be something like truancy. We talked about truancy earlier. That's just basically missing chronic absenteeism. I think it's 18 days. If they're in high school where they have semesters, then it may be 9 days each semester. So that can eventually lead you to dependency court. I know we had a lot of issues going on with other cases that have led to dependency court. For some reason, I noticed there's been a lot of fights and all that type of stuff. Some went on in Selma High, some in Southside, different issues. So all of those type of behaviors are things that could lead to getting to delinquency court. Now, the penalties you face in delinquency court, they're going to be minor compared to adults. It's usually going to be some type of program that maybe Judge Perkins have. They talked about the HEAL program, the HOPE program, different things like that, curfews, and just a lot of monitoring and trying to uplift and teach the kids. So that's pretty much the penalty that you face in delinquency court. Just a few other things and tips that I want to give you. A lot of times you have issues where kids get pulled over by officers. I know we had our chief here and the sheriff here, but I'm kind of speaking as an advocate for the children. I will be representing the children. So one piece of advice that I can offer is always important to acquiesce and to listen to them and to do whatever they ask you. But we've heard about different things that happen even if you do that, and the plight of our community or the plight of our country. But specifically, what do you do when you're pulled over, or your son is pulled over, or daughter's pulled over, and you have an officer that's maybe asking to search the vehicle or to come into their car? So a lot of times as parents want to be like, well, tell them to search the car. Well, let them do whatever they want to do. Go on, do it, go on, speak up, go on, tell them this and that. But everybody has their rights. I know you want to teach them and tell them to do that. That seems like the right thing. But pursuant to the law, that's actually not the right thing. That's actually not what will help them in their case. So if they're pulled over, just make sure that they're aware an officer cannot just go into the car and search the car. Cannot just pull them out the car or detain them longer than what they would for ordinarily traffic stop. So unless the officer sees something in plain view, or it's some kind of exigent circumstance where there's a criminal chase going on, or an officer has good information that it's a crime going on, your child doesn't have to let them just come into the car and search the car or pull them out the car. The primary reason that officers have or use to go into cars and search cars and get them out is they ask. Yeah, they ask, and they're very forceful when they ask, but just make sure your children understand that they don't have to allow that they can say no. They don't have to do that. And that's a similar thing when it comes to after arrest, and you have a child that's in the interrogation room, and an officer wants to talk to the child. Well, we have what's called juvenile Miranda rights. We do have juvenile Miranda rights. And just talking about that a little bit, with our kids in the dependency and the delinquency system, it actually starts at age 14 where those kids can be charged as adults. So that's just a little caveat to know that if you have a child starting at 14 and up, they can be charged as an adult. Now, if they're 14 and they're going to be charged as an adult, obviously got to be something very serious. And I have some of those cases, capital murder cases and serious murder cases. But if they're 16, if they commit a Class A felony, Class A felony is going to be robbery first, murder, kidnapping, burglary. All those type of felonies are going to be Class A. So if you have a child that's 16 and commits one of those type of felonies, then they can be charged as an adult. But going back to just some more tips that I have for you, if you have a child that is 18 or under and they're being interrogated by the police, as an adult or guardian or a parent of that child, you have a right to be in a room. You have a right to be present, and they actually should allow you to do that if that's what you want and that's what you request. Obviously, the main thing that we always told when it comes to this is don't give a statement, wait until you have representation before you do that. That's obviously the way to go. You should never have your child or yourself giving statements and talking to police without having a trained legal advocate that's there to make sure their best interests are taken care of. Just an example of this, I have a case, it's actually a murder case, it's in another county, and the child was under 18, and you have the child's mother in the room with him, and the mother is like, go ahead and tell him what you did, go on, be honest, tell the truth, if you did it, all this and that. And so the child listens to the mom and tells the police everything, bam, charged with capital murder, maybe facing going to prison the rest of his life, at least for the next 30 years as an adult. So they talk about acquiescing and doing what's needed and adhering to what police want and all of this stuff, but you gotta be smart about it. You still gotta be smart about it. So even if I had a child and I understand what happened, don't be in that room telling the child to go ahead and give a statement, go ahead and tell on yourself. Fine, if that's what you want them to do. But you should talk to a lawyer first. You should not do that without a lawyer being present, because owning up to it in that situation, like mom wanted the child to do, I mean, it's still landing them in jail. So I would have rather been smarter about it before that's done. So that's with statements. Just one more caveat, and everybody probably already know this. If you got a child that's in an accident, any kind of automobile accident they're driving, it's always safe to make sure you tell them, you know, take pictures of your car, take pictures of the other car, take pictures of the scene. If there's any witnesses there that may have saw what happened, make sure you talk to those witnesses and get their information. You never know how helpful that may be or when that may be needed. So those are just some areas I wanted to touch on very briefly in regards to the law and how children are involved. Does anybody have any questions on any of those areas or anything else where the child may be involved with law? All right, cool. Well, I'll be around, so if y'all have any questions or anybody want to talk to me one-on-one, I know with legal matters, sometimes they're confidential. You're ready to talk to an attorney or somebody one-on-one, feel free to holler at me, and I give you a consultation and whatever I can do to help. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Judge Wooten. You definitely gave us some news that we can use, especially when you think about issues such as child support and being involved in accidents. Sometimes when you're in the midst of an accident, you don't really take time out to think because you're so frantic. So thank you for making us think. At this time, we're going to go ahead and bring up Mr. Gordine. We realize that he has another engagement, so we're going to bring him up. And then immediately following Mr. Gordine, LaMarcus Snow is going to come up.
Thank you, Ms. Millage. Me and Ms. Millage go way back. We went to high school together at St. Jude High School. So it's very good to see old classmate. She was, I think, a year behind me. So I'm very excited to be here. Coming back home to Selma. See some very familiar faces, some sketches, because I wear glasses, so I can't, let me put my glasses on, so I can see the faces, old familiar faces. Well, I'm excited to be here. I was actually talking about raising boys, what single mothers should know. And I agree with our previous speakers is that I hate that term single mothers because we're all parents. And I think one of the reasons why they asked me to speak, because I was a single dad for about 20 years. That I had primary custody, well, joint custody, but primarily my boy stayed with me. And I know what it feels like to be a single parent trying to raise kids on your own. Now, I had the support of my kid's mother, but they were with me primarily. So I understand the fights, I understand the struggles. And one of the things I want to say, first, let's do this. I want all mothers to please stand. Can we get all mothers to please stand? And I want you to give yourselves a hand, because you gotta give yourselves a hand. And if you're a single mom, if you're doing it by yourself, I applaud you. Because you are the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, you make it all happen. And people just don't know sometimes how you're going to make ends meet, but you make them meet. And so we're really excited and appreciate what you do. Our national stats say that about 75 to 80% of black families are headed up by a single mom. That's a huge statistic. And that puts a significant burden on you as a mother. So this program was designed to say, hey, how can we help? How can we encourage you? Can we give you some tips? We don't want to lecture to you, but share some things. Because one of the things, the first thing I put on my presentation is that we are not alone. You are not alone. Because as a single dad, I had to figure out how can I make this thing work for my boys. Working full-time, trying to pay bills and pay. I had primary custody, but still paid child support. And some say that wasn't fair, that didn't make sense, I should have fought it. But my justification was that, hey, at least I got the time with my boys to invest. And so that was my primary goal. So one of the things I wanted to say to you and say to mothers to encourage you is that we all need each other, and that it does indeed take a village to raise a child. What I began to do when I would go to my kids' school or go to their games is look at other parents that were there, particularly single parents, and say, hey, I'll take the boys to practice Monday and Tuesday, and you can get them Wednesday and Thursday. We would combine our resources. We would team up together. We would see how can we work together. Then we have, is Tara Burks, is she here? I thought I saw her earlier. She was one of the single parents that our sons grew up as best friends, and we began to team up and say, hey, you take them to practice, I'll pick them up from practice. And so as a village, you got to figure out what are you, and you already know this, what are your safe resources? How do you partner together? And that's some of the things that we did. So we want to encourage you to say that get to know positive single parents, your son at your son's schools, the team, and create your own network. I knew just about every single parent in my son's class or other parents we could team up with. Determine your source for being and stand on that foundation. So here's what I'm saying here. You got to determine what is your source. Not who's your resource, but what is your true source that you stand on. And what I'm getting at is that you got to figure out, hey, what is your foundation? For me, that was my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I had to stand on God's word. I had to say I want to be a father the way the Bible says I should be. Not based on what society said or based on what my friends said or based on how I felt. I may have felt like going out that weekend, partying, and hanging out with the boys, but I had a commitment to these young men. And so my source dictated what kind of father I had to be. So my encouragement to you, hey, what is your source? Number two, know your role as a mother and determine who are you. You define who you are as a mother. Don't let people put labels on you. You're a single mom, you're a divorcee, you're this, you're that. No, I'm the mother of Jacob. I'm the mother of Martha. I'm this person's primary caregiver. I'm this person's source. I'm the head of this household. I'm the one that's going to make a way out of no way for this little boy or girl. You make your own definitions. Don't let anyone put labels on you. Whose are you? Who do you belong to? For me, I said, hey, I belong to God. I didn't let no woman define who I was or how much time I spent with my boys. One of the prerequisites for me, for a woman I dated, if she wasn't a good, motherly kind of person and understood the time I spent with my boys, I showed her the door. I said, my boys come first. That's my priority. So if anyone's in your life that doesn't understand that you are a mother primarily, that you got to provide for those kids, if he or that person is not supportive of that, you got to determine that you need to keep them where you are. The last thing I want to look at is what kind of woman you want to be. You want to be that virtuous woman that Proverbs talks about. Next slide, please. Now I'm going to interchange. I've been a youth leader, Sunday school teacher for 35 years. And so a lot of what I'm going to say today, and let me also say, my name is Roger Bourdin. I am a counselor by trade, a master's in counseling, master's in psychology, and I understand child psychology to the fullest. I've worked at Dallas County Detention Center as a counselor, working with our young people. I've worked at Wallace Community College for the last 32 years as a dean, as a director, and in so many other ways. And I understand what the books say that we should do to raise our kids, and some of that is true. But what I really found strength in is the fact of what the Word of God said. That helped me the most in being effective as a dad. And I want to share this with you also. So there are 4 things I'm suggesting today that boys need. 4 things. And I cannot read them. And I want you to read with me as a whole of this day. I want you to read with me. What does number 1 say? Because I can't see it. Love. The number 1 thing our boys need is love. Now I understand there are different kinds of love. There's tough love, there's compassionate love, there's agape love. They need all that. Now I'm not saying that, I agree with the speaker that said we got to be firm with our boys. We got to be firm but fair. If they fall down, make them get up, of course. Once they get up, let them know it will be all right. But I have had the chance to, it's not a chance, but in school I had a chance to visit almost every prison in the state of Alabama. We had a chance to go to Atmore, to Holden Correctional Facility. We also went to Julia Tutwiler, Stateman, Draper, Easterling, several of our prisons. And we got a chance to interview death row inmates at Atmore, death row inmates at Holden, the female prison, at Tutwiler, the female prison, and lifers. And one of the things our class learned is what they go through, what they experience, and we really began to see that a lot of people were there. They weren't loved. They were misused. They were abused. And the scary thing about serial killers that we met, ones that really were bent on killing a lot of folks, most of them did not have a good relationship with their mother, or it was an abusive relationship. In psychology, that's called, children have what's called a locus of control. That locus of control is putting you by your mother, that nurturing, mothering, caring spirit. And when that child does not make that connection with mama, and when that is abused and twisted, we see that common trait in a lot of serial killers. So mothers, you are so important. You are the nurturers. You are extremely important. Your role is tremendous. So the number one thing our boys need is love. Number two, what does number two say?
Identity.
Identity. Our boys, our children, get their identity. They can get it from you, but if you don't tell them who they are and whose they are, the world will tell them and stamp them and indoctrinate them about who they are. So it's our primary job, it's my primary job to let my boys know who they are as young men. And so number three, we also should have a plan, and we're going to go break that down, a plan of how do we accomplish that, and what is that based on. And number four, we got to train our boys. And so we say that love is patient and kind. We say that identity, you define your son before the world defines him. Because you know there is a definition out there. There are labels that are being defined for our boys in the media, in music, in videos. They're trying to tell our boys who they are and who they see they are. And so we have to be conscious of that and realize you have to define that for him. And number four, plain words in action. Let's go to the next slide. So what does this look like with love? We say that love is unconditional. It should be affirming, appreciation for who they are and not what they do. Our kids got to know that regardless if they make an A or make a C, I still love you. Even if you fail that class, I'm going to be disappointed. I'm going to make you do the work to make it up, but I still love you. That's unconditional love. Sometimes we can send a message. I love you if you make A's and B's. I love you if you make the winning jump shot. I love you if you make the winning touchdown. Regardless if they fail or win, they got to know mom, dad loves me regardless. That's important. Because we know that our prisons are filled with men who simply were not loved. Some of the death row inmates I talked to, when I had hair, made the hair stand up on my head. It scared me. One of the first times in my life I was truly afraid. When I looked into the eyes of these men, they told me what they would do to me. One of the other experiences I had at the Dallas County Detention Center, some of you all have worked with me there, I helped you intake. I help you with a counseling plan. So when your young men come to Dallas County as young as, and I've seen 10 years old, the first thing they do is they strip them of all their clothes. They make them bend over backwards. They do a cavity search. They have to cough. They spray their hair and all their pubic hairs with light spray. to prevent infection and for lice going through the system. But they spray them down like an animal. Then they send them into a shower. Usually the water's not hot. They got to take a cold shower in front of guards, stripping their humanity, stripping any sense of self-worth in those moments. After they take that shower, they give them a set of clothes, a set of orange underwear, a set of orange t-shirts, some tan slides, and a tan jumper, all of which were worn by somebody else. So they give you a pair of used underwear for your son to put on. After stripping them naked, hosing them down, spraying them down with lice spray, and then giving them a used pair of underwear. By that time, half of them start to cry. Half of them start to ask for their mom. And the humiliation that you see in their eyes as a parent, it would break my heart. But the penal system said they had to be there. They committed a crime. Half of them were called what they used to call chins. And Judge, what is a chin? A child in need of supervision. It's like the police officer said earlier, calling the police to raise your child. That child is being unruly or disrespectful or wouldn't listen to the parents. 9 times out of 10, these were calls from grandparents who physically couldn't constrain the child, but they're there because they just needed supervision, because mom and dad weren't there. So they, like I said, my youngest one was 10 years old. And then in that population, you may have them mixed in. We get kids from Montgomery. When Montgomery's full, people that commit murder in Montgomery that are 12, 14, 15, maybe 16, sometimes they come here to Dallas County. We may sell them a bed. And so your 10-year-old, who may just be a chin, a child who needs supervision, is in there with a kid that murdered someone. Maybe here in Dallas County, maybe here in Montgomery County. And so that's that kind of exposure. I'm saying that to say that I want to paint that picture. That's where you do not want your son and daughter to go. The juvenile system is not the system you go to say, hey, help my child. I want to scare them straight. Like I agree with the sheriff. That's not a place for scare straight. You don't want your child, because when they come in, they may come in maybe having some issues with behavior, but they will come out knowing how to be a professional criminal because they talk to each other. They trade notes. They talk at night over the cell walls. Hey man, what did you do? How did you do that? Oh man, I did it like this. If they didn't know how to break it in to your home, they know by the time they leave there. So you don't want your son coming to us at the juvenile detention center. Now they're great folks, they do what they have to do, but that's not a place where we want our kids. For your loving kindness, go back please for a second, go back. So 2 things I want to share is that Psalms 26:3 says, for your loving kindness before my eyes, and I have walked in your truth. Our kids got to see our loving kindness lived out in the home. One of the presenters talked about when kids are being dropped off, they hear conversations from the parents to the kids, and some are not good. Some are being cussed out. You can't tell a child all day long, boy, you ain't shit. You just like your dad. You ain't gonna be shit, he ain't shit, you ain't gonna be shit. That is a self-fulfilling prophecy. If he hears that day in and day out, week in and week out, don't be surprised at 14 that he ain't shit. He is what you said he would be. The Bible says that life and death lie in what? The power of our tongue. We can speak life over our kids. What we declare over them determines what they can be. Or we can speak death over them. And so parents, I'm so conscious of my words. Now, I'm going to be honest. Have I cursed my kids? Yes. I call my mom and say, Mom, I understand why you cuss sometimes when we was growing up. You cuss to keep from choking them. You cuss to keep from hurting them. But we got to be, and I've had to come back and say, son, I'm sorry. I'm not going to say that anymore. We make mistakes. You make mistakes. We all make mistakes. But the important thing for our kids is to let them know when we apologize and when we're wrong and what we need to do differently. And force them back to the Word of God. Secondly, we must demonstrate and show love with our words and actions. That is so important. Next slide, please. Identity. Why is that so important? Everything out there is trying to tell our boys who they should be, who they should emulate, what rapper they should be like, what performer they should be like. But their identity should come from you. Now, Dad is not there, you got to step in the gap. Like I said before, you are the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker. You make it happen. So paint a picture of what you want your son to become. One of my favorite verses I speak over my sons is that I am made in the likeness and image of God. That's from Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. Now think about that for a second. Genesis says we're made in His likeness and His image. That means we're made to look like God. We're made to act like God. And what are the attributes of God? He is loving. He is kind. He is forgiving. He is merciful. Those are the attributes we want to paint on our sons. Son, you are loving. You're kind. You can be all these things. And show them to them or take them to the Bible show. Genesis 1:26 also says, I was made to have dominion over the earth and everything on it and in it. The birds that swim in the sea, the fish, the animals that crawl the earth. When I saw this verse, I thought about some of my white brothers and sisters I'm friends with. And I remember a young man walking into my job. And he came with his grandmother. And I said, young man, what do you want to be when you grow up? He says, I want your job. And I looked at this little boy, and I was surprised, but I wasn't surprised. And as I got to know people in college that didn't look like me, I understood that community teaches their students, teaches their young men that they ought to have dominion over this earth. That means they ought to rule, control, subdue. That's what the word says. And they're taught that. When we teach our folks, hey man, just enjoy life. Just do your thing. Man, I just want to have a good time. I just want to kick it. But the other population, they're saying, I want to have dominion over my life and everything I see. Everything that moves. So we got to start teaching our young men, they are made to have dominion. These are young kings and princes. You're not just a player. You're not just a football player. You're not just an actor or a rapper or whatever. But you can have dominion. You can rule over things. You can be in charge of things. You can be the governor, the president. You can have dominion. So speak those things. Create an identity for your sons. What was the last thing that I quoted my boys? I was fearfully and wonderfully made. That's Psalms 139:14. Now on the right are some, I put lies, and more lies that they say about our young men. They say that our young men, black boys, are lazy. They say you can't trust them. Drug users, not smart. Unreliable, drug users, headed for jail, criminals, up to no good. That's what we see in the world. And when you look at the images, look on your Netflix roll. When you click on Netflix and look at your profile, look at the movies that'll play for you. It fits a lot of black movies. Most of the black movies are about drug dealers. The Top Boy, this and that. Most of them are about drug dealers. Most of our black movies out there are about drug dealers. The whole Power series, drug dealers, black drug dealers. The whole VMS, Black Mafia family, drug dealers. We're glorifying and telling our young men, this is what you should attain to. Now, growing up, one of my favorite shows was The Cosby Show. Now, I know what happened with Cosby, irregardless, let's put that on the side. But one of the things that most of us in my generation in the 80s, we would see The Cosby Show. That's the first time a lot of us saw doctors and lawyers, professional black folk. And we started saying we could be there. Then came a different world. They went to college. That inspired us to go to college. That inspired us to pledge. What was that movie with Spike Lee? that came out after that? Do the Right Thing. And what was the one where they, School Days? School Days came out when I was in college, right before I pledged. They motivated me to go on because I saw black folks on the screen doing what I wanted to do. So we've got to show our black boys images of what we want them to become. Now, at this age, we want to be exploratory, show them several things. One of my other favorite verses is Jeremiah 29:11, where the word says, "For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans to prosper you, to give you a hope for the future." I speak that over my boys every week. I say, listen, God has a plan for you. Our job is to find out what that plan is. Our job is to find out what God created you for. What are your gifts? What are your strengths? And let's push you in those directions where you can discover God's plan for your life. Now, not plan for your life, but God's plan. And so we got to speak that over our boys. Next, we have to plan. The word says we have to have a vision. The word says we have to write the vision and make it plain, so they that read it must run with it. So a lot of women are good at doing vision board. Write a vision board for your sons and your daughters. What do you see them becoming? What are the possibilities out there for them? Write that vision down. Put it on their room door. Hey, you can become a lawyer, a doctor. You can become anything you want to be. Your son and daughter's good with playing with Legos, putting things together. Hey, son, you can be an engineer. Your son likes dissecting bugs and picking up bugs. You can be a biologist. You can be a doctor. You can be anything you want to be, but list what they could be. That's important. So write the vision. It's impossible to become what you cannot see. So it's our job as parents, moms, to say, paint and write that vision for them to see. Take them to see black speakers. Take them to see next weekend the Jubilee. We're going to have all kinds of African Americans here. Vice President Kamala Harris may be coming this weekend. Other congressional members, other speakers. Take them to see these lawyers and doctors, these foot soldiers. Show them what they could be. Expose your son or daughter to possibilities, like we said. Exploration should be encouraged. And here's the other thing. Let your child be a child while they're a child. If they like playing with toys and playing with Legos and playing with G.I. Joe men or gladiators, let them do that. Don't let them get exposed to all these games that are mature rated, that are blowing folks' heads off and blood splattered everywhere. We're killing their innocence. Give them things where they can explore. Next slide, please. Lastly, the last 4 things we need to do is train or lead him. When we look at the definition of the word train, it says to train up a child in the way she goes, so when he gets old or gets mature, he won't depart from it. What are you training him to do? The other word for train means to point. To point, like an arrow. What are you pointing your sons to? Are you pointing them to success? Are you pointing them to positive images? Or are you pointing them to the past, saying you'll never be anything because your daddy and his folks ain't anything, and you ain't going to be anything? Or can you say, you know what? You can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. You can be better. You don't have to be like your dad's family. You don't have to be like my family. My grandmother had a shot house in the Low Country in South Carolina. She had 6 kids. She raised them by herself, and she struggled. She grew okra. I helped pick okra in the summertime when I went to South Carolina. She grew cotton. She grew whatever she could to sell. She was a hustler. In the summertime, my mama didn't know this. I was helping her pour 50-cent shots, going to get the beers, selling to the men, making that money. But the one thing she did, you couldn't cuss in her house. I don't care how drunk the men got on corn liquor, you couldn't cuss in Miss Annie's house. She had some standards, even though she was breaking the law. But interestingly, the game warden would come by a pint of corn liquor. The deputy sheriff would come by some. Everybody knew what she was doing. But she raised 6 kids on her own, was able to buy 6 acres of land, own her own home, 6 acres and a home, and raised 5 boys and a girl. And youngest of that 4 was my dad, who she encouraged to go to the Air Force. He went on to the Air Force, married my mom before they left, went around the world, and as fate would have it, brought them to Maxwell Air Force Base. And that little lady who ran a shot house, her son did well in the Air Force, did well in Alabama. And so as a single mom, my grandmother was a single mom, and she made it. She made ends meet. And I'm not saying that story to glorify illegal behavior, but she did what she had to do. And so I understand what that looks like. I understand what that feels like. When people talk about us behind our back or speaking as we walk by, because that's the shot lady's grandkids, but they didn't let her hear that, and we wouldn't dare tell her that. In closing, one of the things, go to our last slide, I think we're done, yeah. Training includes, like we said, teaching, leading, pointing, and these are things you do every day. And my job is to come to encourage you and say thank you, because mamas, you're doing it. Like the other speaker said, we're preaching to the choir. The people that are not here are probably the ones that need to be here. So I want to thank you for the job that you're doing every day. And just a reminder of 4 things we can do to point our boys in the right direction. Now one thing I do that's on the slide that I'm going to say is that when we talk about training our boys and responsibility is taught, structure and values. Teaching boys responsibility early, we talk about that. If you don't give your son responsibility at home, he'll be lazy as an adult. At 10 years old, both of my boys were learning how to cut grass, weed eat, and trim hedges. Their mother complained, my baby's too young for that. I said, shut up, boy. I'm teaching you boys. And so by the time they got to 12 years old, they were cutting the grass by themselves. By the time each of them got to 12, 13, I put them behind the wheel of the car, let them drive. I would take long trips to Texas. I let my boys drive at 13 and 12 across the state of Texas, from clear across to Austin, Texas, which is a long drive from Selma. And little did I know my oldest boy would end up becoming a commercial truck driver, because he learned how to drive at an early age. 21 years old, making great money, over-the-road trucker. But, you know, those things I didn't realize at the time, but they were teaching my sons responsibility, teaching them what we call in workforce development, work ethic. Right now, I have several companies who come to me to say, hey, we have jobs to open in Selma. We can't find guys or ladies who want to work. We have an epidemic because our young men and women are showing up at the jobs not ready to work, don't know how to dress, are wearing pink hair, blue hair, and that's cool for this generation. But for folks my age that are doing the hiring, they don't want to hire folks with pink hair and red hair. I'm just going to be real with you. And jobs we hire for at the college, I've had a chance to sit on hiring boards and hire over 1,000 people. And we tell young people, if you come to that job not dressed appropriately, they won't say a word, but they're just going to X your application and send on to the next person. So we're trying to train our folks. I learned that in high school and middle school. Our teachers dress appropriately. When my son, I call my son, but my nephew got put out of school in Montgomery. I was going to put him in private school in St. Jude in Montgomery. I said, no, let me try Selma High School. At the time, Dr. Donald Jefferson was principal. I brought him over here. They put him in uniform. Dr. Jefferson got him acting right and flying straight. My stepson came to school here, and he was tardy 3 times. I got him late to school. That 3rd time, I got a notice from the court system to come to court. I was embarrassed. I was in court with criminals, drug dealers, everybody. I was ashamed. But because I was truant with my son, they called me to the carpet. Ms. Lorraine Kemper, she did not play. And that's something I think somehow I got to get back to whoever's the truant officer, because he was never late again for the rest of his time here at Selma High, because they embarrassed us coming to court. and he made parents accountable. And so I say, you guys are doing a tremendous job battling all kinds of socioeconomic issues. But we need our court systems, like our speaker said, to do something about that. I would have been in jail with 18 absences. And the judge told me, the parent, it takes a village. I'm going to say this when I'm up for the close. As I would see parents come to the juvenile detention center, in 2 weeks after we have humiliated that young man, stripped him naked, humiliated him, put on someone else's underwear, amazingly, 90% of those young men gave us no disciplinary problems. They had structure, they had discipline, they had free square meals. Amazingly, most of them came in with a lot of pimples and whatnot. Their skin and complexion would clear up after 2 weeks. But when they would have visitation after that second week, there's one young man who was a problem, who gave us problems from Wilcox County, there for free. His mama walked in there and said, baby, guess what? Mama made some money this weekend. I got me a hotel room, and I got me some men. I made some good money this weekend. And she was happy and proud. And he just dropped his head. And all of our staff, we looked at the young man, and we felt sad for him and said, we understand now what we're dealing with. What she said earlier, you don't know what they're dealing with at home. So when they get to you, it's already up here floating up. But while he was at our facility, we called him by his last name, sir. We need you to stand up, you just sit down, and listen to him. Even though he gave us some problems, he got better as